Whispers about the power of the Duke's backing echo over the Grand Palace grounds.
Cruel gossip questions who would marry an illegitimate child without the Duke's influence.
A maid enters the lavish room, bringing hot water for the blonde lady.
The maid's tone is sharp as she demands her mistress drink the water immediately. Roseanne flinches away as the maid aggressively forces the steaming cup toward her. Splash! The cup is knocked aside, sending hot water flying through the air. Instead of apologizing, the maid scolds her mistress for being careless and wasteful.
Roseanne requests a mirror, but the maid rudely directs her toward the distant vanity.
Dressed in white silk, the blonde lady stands up with a newfound steady grace.
She stares into the mirror, stunned by the unfamiliar face looking back at her.
A sudden, sharp pain strikes her as fragmented memories begin to flood her mind.
The maids are bewildered when she mentions the absence of swords and pools of blood.
Through tears of relief, the woman smiles at the peaceful life she has entered.
A contemplative silence falls over the bride as her attendant watches with growing concern.
The maids continue their disrespectful chatter, mocking the girl's unfortunate birth and status. The Duke enters with a stern expression, calling out to his daughter, Roseanne.
He notices her tear-streaked face and questions if she has been crying before the ceremony.
Without comfort, he orders her to fix her smudged makeup before the wedding begins.
Roseanne studies the man before her, seeing him with eyes that carry ancient weight.
The Duke is caught off guard by the cold, penetrating gaze of his daughter.
She calmly declares that today's wedding schedule must be altered, shocking her father. Her gaze is firm, reflecting a spirit that has weathered many storms.
A haunting memory of a scorched battlefield reveals her past life as a warrior.
The red-haired knight recalls a life spent fighting for an empire that never knew her. She yearned to be free from the repeating cycle of war and endless darkness.
Her dream of feeling the warm wind seemed like an unattainable fantasy until now.
The knight realizes she has awakened in a body far removed from the battlefield. She gazes around the peaceful, sunlit room, realizing her long spell has finally broken.
Looking in the mirror, she discovers she is now Roseanne Leylaton, the Duke's daughter.
New memories reveal Roseanne was a lonely girl abandoned by her mother and father. Desperate for love, the original Roseanne accepted a political marriage that led to tragedy.
The poor girl's life ended in darkness as she collapsed from sheer, agonizing exhaustion. An overwhelming sadness lingers as she considers the soul that was broken before her. With the knight's soul inside her, Roseanne looks at the Duke with cold contempt.
She boldly cancels the wedding, calling her intended groom a pervert she won't marry.
The Duke stands frozen as she decides to handle the fallout of her cancellation alone.
Infuriated, the Duke grabs her arm and screams her name, demanding she obey him.
The sudden pain shocks her, making her realize how fragile this new body is.
She commands the Duke to release her, refusing to tolerate his arrogant and rough behavior.
She wrenches her hand away, leaving the man speechless at her sudden, fierce defiance.
When he tries to grab her again, she confronts him with his heartless neglect.
She warns him to stop using her for profit, calling his apathy a form of murder.
With a biting remark, she suggests he marry the Marquis himself if he values the bond.
Top, Roseanne walks away with purpose, leaving a stunned silence in her wake.
She expects his sharp mind to grasp her resolve after years of his indifference. Her expression is resolute as she prepares to rewrite her destiny in this body.
She ponders how the existence of an illegitimate child was kept hidden in her past.
The realization that her physical defenses have weakened since her reincarnation troubles her mind.
A sigh of wonder escapes her as she looks toward the bright, blooming world.
Gazing at the lilies, the former warrior finds beauty in this peaceful, newfound reality.
The blonde lady smiles softly as she stands before the grand golden palace entrance. Dressed in her white wedding gown, Roseanne resolves to cherish the life she has entered.
Overwhelmed by the beauty of her surroundings, the lady pauses to calm her emotional heart.
Beneath a clear blue sky, she decides that canceling the wedding is her most urgent task.
In the lavish hall, musicians play elegant string melodies as guests gather for the ceremony.
Guests whisper maliciously about Roseanne's status and the perceived shabbiness of the wedding decorations.
A guest observes that the political union between the Leylaton and Jagelia houses is what matters. The crowd notices the bride's arrival, commenting on her tearful face and weary appearance.
Entranced by the star-like chandelier and music, Roseanne finds peace in the festive atmosphere.
She notes that the guests seemed surprisingly happy, contrary to the original Roseanne's hostile memories.
Before meeting the young Marquis, she pauses to express silent gratitude for this new beginning.
Walking through the glamorous hall, the bride vows to remember this beautiful moment forever.
The guests are taken aback by her unusual tone, wondering if she has lost her mind. With a resolute expression, Roseanne internally declares her intention to stop the marriage immediately.
Her gaze is firm and unwavering as she prepares to face the consequences of her choice. A wave of murmurs spreads through the crowd after the lady makes her shocking announcement. The gray-haired Duke shouts at Roseanne in a fit of rage, shocked by her defiance. When the Duke claims the wedding is for his benefit, Roseanne meets him with apathy. Stressed and agitated, the Duke prepares to leave the hall to speak with the Marquis. Ignoring her father's selfish motives, she declares she will follow her own heart today. The blonde lady stares ahead with sharp blue eyes, signaling the end of her obedience.
The Duke is left speechless, convinced that his daughter has truly gone mad before them.
She reflects on how the Duke's influence has shifted over the last 10 years of neglect. Standing amidst the finery, she recognizes her own unchanging spirit within this fragile body. Shaking off her sentimentality, the former warrior prepares to handle the unfolding chaos.
A sharp tap echoes through the grand hall as she reflects on what she has confirmed.
Recalling her life as a knight, Roseanne realizes she can still sense others' presences perfectly.
A black-booted leg enters the frame as she tests her warrior instincts in the hall.
Roseanne turns her head with quiet grace, remaining calm despite the mounting tension in the room. The brown-haired young Marquis greets her arrogantly, though she finds his appearance quite disappointing.
Roseanne bluntly cancels the wedding, publicly labeling the stunned young Marquis as a pervert.
She demands he show respect, refusing to be addressed by her name in such circumstances.
An ominous atmosphere fills the hall as the rejected man reacts with growing indignation.
Enraged by her public rejection, the brown-haired man grits his teeth in visible, dark fury.
He yells at her with wide eyes, questioning the sanity of her sudden, scandalous decision.
The young Marquis looms over her, threatening her with the Duke's potential reaction to her choice.
With a witty retort, Roseanne mocks his threats, looking entirely bored by his aggressive behavior.
Frustrated by her lack of fear, the man continues to yell as she mocks him. Roseanne closes her eyes dismissively, suggesting he needs a proper education before considering marriage. She warns him to grasp the situation, declaring that he simply does not suit her. The young Marquis's eye twitches with uncontrolled rage as he prepares to strike the lady.
Screaming a final warning, he lunges toward the blonde lady with violent, red-tinted intent. Chaos erupts as the man attacks, his face twisted in a mask of pure, unbridled anger.
Roseanne mockingly compares his incoming fist to fluffy bread while acknowledging the potential pain.
Recognizing the fragility of her current body, she expertly prepares to dodge his aggressive strike. A black-haired man suddenly intervenes, catching the young Marquis's arm to defend the lady. The handsome stranger with striking red eyes looks on with a calm, protective intensity.
Pulled into his firm embrace, Roseanne is captivated by the man's jewel-like, shining eyes. As he checks if she is hurt, Roseanne finds herself mesmerized by his handsome features. Stunned by his beauty, she realizes she is looking at a far more appealing face.
The black-haired man notes his ability to sense others despite never meeting before. His intense red eyes stay fixed on the scene unfolding before him. He scolds the Marquis for attempting to assault the bride on her wedding day. He reveals that Marquis Cezelia invited him to the ceremony as well. The cowering Marquis stammers a nervous response as the black-haired man looms over him.
The black-haired man explains he was sent to die on a distant battlefield.
He warns that raising a hand against Roseanne, a noble lady, is truly unthinkable. An oppressive, dark aura radiates from him as he intimidates the cowering man. He questions what would happen if the Duke learned of the Marquis's shameful behavior. He wears a sharp, mocking smile while acknowledging the Marquis's desperate excuses.
He announces his plan to inform the Emperor about the sudden wedding cancellation.
A frantic Marquis flees the hall as the couple watches him disappear. The black-haired man smiles warmly, telling Roseanne that no gratitude is required. In a playful chibi style, he asks if she is speaking on his behalf. Roseanne considers how the Emperor's influence would have grown from this union. She calmly explains there is no need to thank her for stopping the marriage. Confusion strikes the black-haired man as he tries to process her unusual reasoning.
Roseanne addresses him as Your Grace while he stares back with deep curiosity.
A messenger arrives to inform the man that the Emperor has summoned him. He predicts the Emperor's annoyance at seeing him return from war entirely unharmed. He kisses her hand, commenting on her unique speech before he takes his leave.
Roseanne stands by the window, realizing the Emperor remains as power-hungry as ever.
Shatter! A porcelain cup breaks as an angry voice demands to know her location. The gray-haired Emperor rages about anyone daring to covet what belongs to him. He looks upon the image of the hero, the Empire's greatest divine gift.
Now in a blue gown, Roseanne wonders why her warrior powers remain so strong.
She believes the hero's soul carries a divine blessing that transcends her rebirth. A sense of unease fills her as she realizes the sealing spell is unbroken.
Roseanne resolves to hide her true identity to avoid being used once again.
Her blue eyes shimmer with a firm determination to protect her newfound freedom.
She admits she lacks critical information about the world she has entered.
Memories surface of being abandoned by her parents and sealed at a young age.
A vivid flashback recalls her past life facing a massive, fiery dragon in battle.
She hopes her former comrades might have answers about her status as a hero.
Roseanne approaches the butler, demanding to speak with the Duke immediately. In a defiant pose, she insists the butler brings her father to her first.
The butler yields to her demand, opening the doors to the Duke's private chamber.
Entering the room, she formally addresses her father, leaving the butler behind.
The brown-haired Duke sits in bed, coldly acknowledging his daughter's presence.
Roseanne notices his bandaged hand, questioning if he suffered an injury recently.
The butler explains the Duke had a minor accident on her wedding day.
She suspects the injury is linked to her earlier confrontation with the man. The Duke impatiently demands she ask her question and leave him in peace. Roseanne asks for the current whereabouts of the force that sealed the dragon. He looks at her with suspicion, surprised by her interest in the subjugation force.
She smiles brightly, expressing her hope that her former allies are faring well.
Her expression freezes as the Duke bluntly reveals that they are all dead. He mentions that out of the entire force, only one person managed to survive. The Duke callously explains that soldiers are always expendable in the heat of battle. Shaken by the news, Roseanne wonders when her comrades were lost to the darkness.
The brown-haired Duke questions Roseanne's sudden interest in imperial affairs while she defends her curiosity.
He warns that knowing more won't benefit her or the family's fragile standing.
Dismissing her, the Duke orders Roseanne to remain silent about his recent injuries.
A sharp clock sounds as records reveal the dragon subjugation force survived despite suffering wounds.
Roseanne suspects a dangerous incident occurred that now threatens the safety of the entire family. A butler interrupts, informing an annoyed Roseanne that a new guest has arrived. Upon hearing Grand Duke Barfius has arrived, Roseanne moves with a sudden, urgent clack. Roseanne sprints through the palace, leaving the confused servants shouting in her wake.
Racing down the stairs, she's determined to reach the guest before the butler.
Her shoes tap rhythmically as she dashes toward the room to ensure a private meeting.
Bursting through the doors with a loud bang, Roseanne's entrance startles the man inside. Chaitton sits composed on the sofa, watching the blonde lady's dramatic arrival with interest.
Roseanne uses a broom to lock the doors, surprising Chaitton with her bold confinement.
Chaitton decides to address his concerns directly now that she has cornered them.
He leans close, asking if she played a role in sealing the mad dragon.
Shaken, Roseanne wonders if the black-haired man has already seen through her hidden identity.
She realizes Chaitton's imperial blood might allow him to sense her powerful warrior soul. Faced with exposure, the blonde lady decides to bluff her way through the interrogation.
A dark aura surrounds her as she internally considers silencing the man permanently.
With a soft thud, Chaitton sits beside her, heightening the tension with his proximity.
Chaitton mentions hearing strange voices, leaning in to observe her reaction very closely.
Touching her hand, he confirms the existence of the mad dragon's lingering, deadly curse.
Roseanne wonders why Chaitton would be the one bearing such a terrible, frenzied burden. They lock eyes, the air between them thick with unspoken secrets and mutual suspicion. He reveals that his earring is a magical device used to suppress the dragon's frenzy. Roseanne attempts to hurry him out, but Chaitton remains unfazed by her obvious impatience. A series of loud thuds echo as the butler desperately tries to enter the room. Ignoring the noise, Roseanne points out that the Grand Duke clearly needs her help. Chaitton smiles, genuinely impressed by the lady's quick wit and sharp intuition. He offers a deal to protect her reputation in exchange for what he desires.
Reaching for her with a sudden grab, he asks for a single binding promise.
Roseanne pulls him close, boldly demanding the Emperor's head as her price for cooperation. Chaitton is taken aback by her plan to force a dangerous meeting with him.
The doors burst open as the servants rush in, shouting for their lady in alarm.
Seizing the moment, Roseanne tells Chaitton to kiss her immediately to seal the deal. She repeats her demand for a kiss, determined to cause a massive public scandal. Chaitton agrees that getting involved this way is the most effective path forward.
In a shocking display, the pair shares a passionate kiss before the gathered witnesses.
A ring clatters to the floor as the onlookers gape at the scandalous embrace.
News of the lady's public scandal spreads like wildfire through the empire's high society. Noblewomen whisper and gasp while reading the shocking headlines about the new couple.
The scandalous rumors travel across the provinces, reaching the ears of every royal house.
Speculation intensifies regarding a secret alliance between the Lilaton family and the Grand Duke. Bang! The Duke slams his hand down, enraged by the trouble his daughter has caused. He screams at Roseanne, demanding she return to being the quiet daughter she once was. Roseanne stands her ground, accusing her father of failing to follow his own words.
Gritting his teeth, the Duke forbids her from ever addressing him as father again.
Slumping into a seat, he sentences Roseanne to immediate house confinement within the mansion.
Roseanne mocks his decision, noting he still has much to learn about controlling her.
The bandaged Duke realizes he is powerless to stop his daughter's growing, fierce defiance.
The blonde-haired lady notes that she accidentally used far too much force against the Duke.
A chibi brown-haired Duke claims his injury was an accident, while Roseanne remains quite skeptical.
Duke Laylaton insists he fell on the wedding day to hide his daughter's overwhelming strength.
The Duke demands an end to the nonsense as Roseanne calmly agrees to let it go.
Standing before his desk, Roseanne is reminded that her wedding cancellation was already forgiven.
A pained, sharp "ack-hawk" sounds as the Duke slams his bandaged hand down in a rage.
Roseanne warns her father to control his temper as he shouts for her absolute silence.
Internally, the blonde lady resolves to remain rational despite the Duke's irrational and explosive fury.
The Duke rubs his head, terrified that the Emperor has already heard the scandalous rumors.
Roseanne watches her father, knowing the social chaos was entirely part of her grand plan.
To protect her freedom, she considers methods to break her seal and weaken the Emperor.
She envisions the Duke as a figurehead supported by the hands of the entire nobility.
The image of noble unity shatters as she plans to detach the Duke from the Emperor.
Roseanne realizes the Duke has been controlled by the Emperor's leash since his early childhood. The blonde lady nods to herself, satisfied that her preemptive strike against the crown worked.
Desperate for a solution, the brown-haired Duke asks his daughter for advice regarding the rumors. Roseanne suggests announcing her marriage to the Grand Duke as the only viable path forward.
The Duke seethes with a dark purple aura while growling out his daughter's name. Shouting in a rage, the Duke orders Roseanne to leave his office immediately.
A blurred view of the mansion exterior reflects the chaotic energy of their heated confrontation. A romantic vision of the scandalous kiss between Roseanne and Chaitton lingers in the air.
Chaitton touches his lips, clearly dazed by the blonde lady's sudden and bold request.
Pavel questions why the black-haired man is touching his lips with such a distant expression.
A sharp talk sounds as Pavel asks if the Emperor's recent behavior is causing trouble.
Pavel rants about the Emperor's cruelty while Chaitton remains lost in his own deep thoughts.
Shifting the focus, Chaitton informs Pavel that he has a specific question to ask him.
Chaitton asks what it implies when a woman suddenly demands a kiss from a man.
Pavel realizes that Chaitton went to see the blonde lady instead of visiting the Emperor.
Chaitton tries to suppress Pavel's excitement over the memory of the public romantic embrace.
Pavel notes how bold the lady was to ask for a kiss from a stranger. In a playful chibi style, Pavel teases Chaitton about his sensitive heart and past tears.
Seeking advice from a married man, Chaitton wonders if Roseanne actually has feelings for him.
Pavel explains that the lady's actions were likely a direct result of Chaitton's unique presence. He informs Chaitton that ladies never ask to kiss men they do not truly like.
Pavel asks for Chaitton's honest opinion on the Grand Duke's mysterious and powerful new partner.
Touching his magical earring, Chaitton notes that the dragon seal is failing at a dangerous rate.
He realizes that the lady's kiss successfully silenced the agonizing voices of the dragon's curse.
With red eyes glowing, Chaitton decides he absolutely needs that woman to survive his burden.
Relaxing in a sun-drenched garden, Roseanne enjoys a moment of quiet peace amidst the flowers. A maid brings a dessert of bread and jam, which Roseanne finds very visually appealing. The blonde lady reaches for the jam jar, unaware of the struggle the maids faced.
Behind her, the maids whisper that the lid is stuck and impossible to open normally.
They gossip about how much the lady's personality and behavior have changed in recent days. Roseanne grips the jar, her mind focused on gathering more information about the current world. A loud pop echoes as Roseanne effortlessly rips the lid off the stubborn jam jar. The maids look on in pure terror, shocked by the lady's display of unnatural strength.
One maid stammers in disbelief, asking how such a delicate lady could open the jar.
Roseanne looks back with confusion, wondering if she was forbidden from opening her own dessert.
Panicked, the maids frantically wave their hands while trying to explain their sudden, overwhelming shock.
The blonde lady realizes her old habits of helping with meals for others have surfaced.
Roseanne hands a stubborn jam jar to a nervous maid for opening.
The blonde lady insists she will wait until the maid successfully opens it.
The maid strains with all her might to turn the lid on the jar. She is bewildered that Roseanne's seemingly frail wrist closed the jar so tightly. Roseanne takes the jar back, noting the bread is cooling while they wait.
Internally, the maid feels insulted, suspecting Roseanne is testing her competence on purpose. A sudden, sharp sound echoes as the maid finally forces the stubborn lid open.
Happily eating, Roseanne wonders why such a simple task caused the maids trouble.
The maids frantically offer to reheat the bread, but Roseanne politely declines them. Roseanne stands to leave while the overwhelmed maids rush to clean the table. Walking through the garden, Roseanne reflects on how much she enjoys real food.
A sudden movement catches Roseanne's eye as a bird falls from a tree.
The blonde lady reacts instantly, her eyes fixed on the falling creature's path.
Roseanne catches the bird midair, her hair flowing as she moves with grace.
She gently cradles the small bird, relieved that it appears to be unharmed. Looking high above, Roseanne identifies the nest the little bird must have fallen from.
The blonde lady tells the bird not to be scared as she prepares it.
Roseanne approaches the massive tree, determined to return the bird to its home.
Climbing with agility, she holds the small bird in her mouth for safety.
Roseanne skillfully maneuvers through the branches, her warrior instincts surfacing in her movements.
She gently places the fallen bird back into the nest with its chirping siblings. Roseanne smiles, admitting she had to carry the bird in her mouth to climb.
The little birds huddle together, safe once again in their high garden home.
Resting on a high branch, Roseanne lets out a soft, contemplative breath.
She admires the beautiful scenery, feeling it would be a shame to go down.
Roseanne reflects on finally seeing the land she once protected from this peaceful height.
A sudden, shrill scream from below shatters Roseanne's quiet moment of reflection. Terrified, the servants and guards look up, begging the young lady to come down.
Roseanne tells the frantic staff to stop bothering her and just do their jobs.
She wonders if normal people truly find climbing trees to be such a feat.
The brown-haired Duke arrives, his face contorted in shock at his daughter's position.
Enraged, the Duke orders the guards to rescue Roseanne before she gets hurt.
Roseanne watches the chaos from above, deciding it is better to stay put.
She realizes that a normal noble lady should probably not be climbing trees. A guard reaches her branch, nervously inviting the young lady to come back down.
Below, the Duke demands to know if Roseanne is acting out due to being grounded.
The Duke screams for silence, his face red with anger at the public scene. He demands to know what the maids were doing while Roseanne was climbing.
Fuming, the Duke threatens to fire all the staff for their perceived incompetence.
The terrified maids collapse to their knees, desperately begging the Duke for mercy.
Roseanne asks her father if he would be any different in their position.
She calmly suggests asking the Emperor to replace her father if he is dissatisfied.
Stunned, the Duke can only stutter in response to his daughter's bold challenge.
He realizes Roseanne is actually defending the servants against his explosive, irrational fury.
Roseanne lectures him, stating that parents are the ones who must watch their children.
She explains that others will only respect her if her own parents do first.
The blonde lady emphasizes that all treatment starts with him as the family head. They lock eyes, the air heavy with the weight of her cutting, logical argument.
Roseanne tells the trembling maids they can stand up, overriding her father's authority.
The Duke demands to be heard, questioning if she is still refusing to listen.
Duke Leylaton invites his aide to speak while standing in the mansion's sunlit hall.
The Duke and his staff watch as Roseanne walks through the garden in a red dress.
A serene night sky filled with stars and light streaks transitions the scene to evening.
In a dark alley, thugs harass a young girl over money while a hooded figure watches. A soft, relieved pew escapes the hooded blonde lady after she intervenes in the alley. Adjusting her hood, the blonde lady laments that the Empire's commoners are still suffering. She recalls the history of imperial bloodlines thriving on war while using heroes as tools.
Reflecting on her time sealed away, she realizes the world's shadows remain tragically unchanged.
A sudden shrill scream pierces the night air, drawing the blonde lady's immediate attention.
Thugs mock a young girl while stealing her money, ignoring her desperate pleas for its return. The men heartlessly tell the crying girl to simply earn more money for her father's bread.
A thug counts the coins, claiming they are insufficient to cover both rent and seat fees.
The young girl cries out in frustration, calling the unfair seat fees completely absurd.
The thug dismisses her complaints while the hooded lady quietly approaches the group from behind.
As the thug aggressively grabs the girl, the hooded lady offers to experience his fear.
A sharp talk sounds as the lady intercepts the thug, grabbing his wrist with surprising force.
The man laughs at her interference, mocking her for being a woman with limited strength. With a firm tuck and oak, the lady applies agonizing pressure to the thug's wrist.
The thug screams in pain while his confused subordinates urge him to punish the meddling lady.
A pained ugh escapes the thug as the lady mocks his arrogance regarding her gender.
She calmly explains that everyone makes the same mistake when first encountering her power.
The truth begins to dawn on the thugs as the lady prepares to end the confrontation.
The leader's arm breaks with a scream while the lady effortlessly knocks another thug aside.
A bald thug steps up, vowing to show no mercy despite her being a young woman.
The blonde lady delivers a devastating punch, declaring she doesn't care who her opponents are.
The young girl watches in stunned admiration as the blonde lady reveals her heroic presence.
The lady pulls her hood back over her face, focused on the aftermath of the fight. The defeated thugs beg for mercy, promising to only collect fair rent from now on. She offers them redemption, ordering the men to live well and help others instead.
The thugs frantically agree to return all the stolen seat fees to the local residents.
Massaging her aching wrist, the lady warns them that revenge will lead to a harsher fate. She turns to the young girl, kindly checking if her own wrist was injured during the scuffle.
The lady explains that rent is still necessary, but the unfair seat fees are gone forever.
The girl asks for her savior's name, hoping to repay such incredible kindness one day.
Declining the offer, the lady insists she would help anyone facing such blatant injustice.
She encourages the girl to find her own courage and help those in need when possible.
A gentle, warm smile graces the blonde lady's face as she looks at the brawl.
Patting the girl's head, the lady tells her to live a good and happy life. The hooded savior walks away into the night, leaving the young girl in quiet awe.
The girl shouts a final thank you, promising she will never forget the lady's protection.
Internally, the lady feels a sense of quiet gratitude for being called a protector once again.
A small smile touches her lips as she reflects on the impact of her actions.
In a cute chibi style, the girl excitedly tells her father about the cool big sister.
Chaitton mentions the scandalous rumors about the noble lady who caused a scene climbing trees. Sitting together, Roseanne casually admits she only tore her dress while rescuing a bird. Chaitton stands up in disbelief, shocked that she would risk her life for a tree.
Roseanne explains the fallen baby bird's danger while Chaitton struggles to process her reckless bravery.
She teases Chaitton, recalling that he was actually quite good at climbing when they were young.
Chaitton insists he can climb too, but worries that the lady is far too fearless. Shifting the mood, Roseanne asks Chaitton how he is managing with his dragon's curse lately.
Chaitton blushes deeply while recalling a past kiss that temporarily managed to soothe his madness.
Roseanne looks at Chaitton with confusion, wondering why he suddenly stopped speaking mid-sentence. A close-up of Roseanne's eye reveals her sudden, sharp realization regarding the Duke's true condition.
Roseanne observes Chaitton's visible struggle as he fails to hide his intense flushing and pain.
Reaching out, the blonde lady firmly takes Chaitton's hand to stabilize his volatile, surging energy. Roseanne notices Chaitton's eyes clearing, confirming that her touch successfully suppresses his inner madness. The blonde lady remains calm and focused, her expression serious as she monitors the Duke's recovery. Chaitton smiles with relief, his face still red as he appreciates the comfort of her touch.
In a cute chibi scene, Chaitton expresses immense gratitude, while Roseanne looks on with composure.
Roseanne casually permits Chaitton to continue his business, provided he does nothing out of the ordinary. Chaitton looks startled as Roseanne grips his hand tighter to ensure the healing process continues. The blonde lady asks the black-haired Duke how he is feeling after her intervention.
Roseanne continues to question his state, her blue eyes fixed on the flustered Duke's face.
Chaitton grows intensely flustered, misinterpreting her clinical physical contact as a sign of romantic affection. The Duke wonders if Pavel was correct about the princess harboring a secret crush on him. A solitary speech bubble appears, expressing a simple but profound sense of liking the current situation. The two characters sit together on a white sofa, their hands still joined in the sunlit room. Roseanne suggests they keep holding hands, much to Chaitton's utter shock and growing confusion. The blonde lady stares ahead with determination, her expression remaining unreadable and strictly professional. Text clarifies that Roseanne feels no discomfort despite the dangerous implications of her current association.
Chaitton is mortified to realize that she only sees their handholding as a medicinal healing technique.
Roseanne describes their arrangement as a tactical disguise, effectively crushing Chaitton's hopes for emotional attachment. Abruptly, the black-haired Duke stands up, his back turned as he prepares to leave the room. Chaitton hides his face in shame while Roseanne casually enjoys a small snack, completely unfazed. The Duke walks away, promising to make a proper visit the next time they meet.
A chibi Roseanne chuckles, thinking about the Duke's maturity while considering her future plans.
A soft, contemplative woo escapes Roseanne as she drinks tea and plans an eventual apology. Chirps sound from a nearby nest while Roseanne regrets not investigating the source of Chaitton's madness. Roseanne stands on a floral bridge, looking down at the tranquil garden pond in deep thought. The blonde lady reflects on how the Duke's sudden arrival made her forget her primary objectives. Roseanne considers her current physical weakness, knowing a future face-off will reveal her true capabilities. A maid waves from the garden, urgently trying to get the blonde lady's attention from below. The maid informs Roseanne that a guest has arrived and is waiting in the reception room. Roseanne and the maid walk quickly through the garden toward the mansion to meet the guest. Roseanne thinks about the formidable reputation of the Mad Dragon Subjugation Squad as she approaches. A blonde man greets the princess, causing Roseanne to stop in her tracks with visible shock. The blonde lady's face twists into an expression of intense suspicion and immediate defensive hostility. Surrounded by imagery of thorns, the visitor notes her cold and clearly unexpected reaction. The blonde man, Prince Joseph, relaxes in a chair with a confident and predatory smile. A historical tapestry depicts the red-haired hero as a shackled tool used for the Empire's glory. The artwork reveals Joseph as the next master holding the literal chains of the captive hero. Roseanne blames herself for being reckless and failing to sense Joseph's presence before entering. Joseph nonchalantly asks why she is so tense, claiming he only came for a simple conversation.
The blonde prince maintains his arrogant smirk, clearly enjoying the power dynamic in the room. Roseanne worries that Joseph inherited the imperial ability to recognize her unique, hidden soul. Dark energy and thorns surround Roseanne as she coldly contemplates killing Joseph to protect her secret. The blonde lady stands firm, demanding that the prince stop wasting time and get to the point.
Joseph steps forward, his boots clicking on the floor as he addresses her with false politeness.
A final thought bubble reveals the prince's true intention to retrieve something he believes was lost.
Joseph suddenly grabs Roseanne's arm and pulls her close, confirming her fear that she has been found.
While Prince Joseph is off guard, Roseanne plans to find a temporary weapon. Prince Joseph pulls Roseanne close, demanding to know why she canceled their marriage.
Stunned by the unexpected question, the blonde lady wonders if she misheard him.
A soft tap sounds as Roseanne questions why her engagement matters more than his mission.
Joseph acknowledged her rumored madness and wonders why she hated the marriage so much. Reflecting on her transformation, Roseanne realizes she has become someone else entirely.
Roseanne stares ahead, realizing the arrogant prince knows absolutely nothing of her truth.
Joseph finally invites the princess to sit, ending their long, intense standing confrontation. They sit together as Roseanne admits she acted too hastily during his arrival.
Thorns surround Roseanne as she weighs the heavy political consequences of killing the prince.
Joseph settles in, eager to begin a proper conversation with the defiant blonde princess. Dismissing the marriage talk, the blonde prince opens a box of small sugar cubes.
Joseph maintains an arrogant smile while casually preparing to sweeten his tea.
Observing him, Roseanne reflects on how much the prince has grown since childhood.
Joseph lectures her on treason while Roseanne mocks his formerly childish, worm-like handwriting.
Eating a sugar cube, Joseph discusses power while Roseanne notes his predictable tastes. A dark premonition warns that Duke Barpheus is destined for a lonely battlefield death. A sharp crunch sounds as Joseph laughs, his expression dripping with predatory confidence. A playful chuckle sounds as Roseanne watches him, finding the prince easy to tease.
A wide shot shows the pair sitting across from each other in the opulent room. Roseanne asserts her independence while Joseph warns he won't overlook her madness again.
A sudden whoosh sounds as a teacup is thrown while Joseph shouts in alarm. The blonde lady smiles coldly, declaring she will always do exactly as she pleases.
Startled by her aggressive movement, Joseph stares at her with visible sweat and confusion.
To Joseph's shock, Roseanne has expertly caught a flying teacup with her bare hand. A firm click sounds as Roseanne grips the teacup and asks for her turn. Joseph recoils in disbelief, asking if she truly intends to throw it at him.
Looking down, Joseph realizes her empty threats carry a terrifying and crushing weight.
A spectral image of a mighty warrior looms behind Roseanne, emphasizing her hidden strength.
Panicked, Joseph warns that the king will never forgive her for hurting him. A playful chirp sounds as Roseanne mocks the prince's overly dramatic and cowardly reaction.
Seeing the cleanup crew near, she decides to stop playing around with the prince.
Roseanne's blue eyes narrow as she recalls the hero serving as an obedient pawn.
Joseph warns that the summoned hero would show no mercy to her family house.
The prince continues his lecture about the emperor's puppet hero while Roseanne listens. Joseph explains that the pawn hero lacks emotions and only follows the emperor's orders.
Joseph looks smug while a flash of Roseanne's intense gaze hints at her secret.
A loud crash echoes through the room as pottery shatters against the wall.
Joseph stares in stunned silence at the destruction the princess just caused.
Sweat beads on Joseph's face as he struggles to process her blatant defiance.
Roseanne smiles innocently, claiming her hand slipped and it was merely an accident. Outraged, Joseph tells her that attacking a prince is an act no excuse covers. Challenging his bluff, Roseanne dares him to summon his puppet if he is afraid. A warm flush sweeps over Joseph's face as he boils with silent embarrassment. A soft chuckle sounds as Roseanne questions if people will doubt the prince's competence.
She suggests they end the meeting peacefully, leaving the shattered fragments on the floor. Gripping the sofa in frustration, Joseph fears the political fallout if word spreads.
A sudden, rhythmic knock at the door interrupts their intense and volatile standoff. A soft rustle sounds as Roseanne stands, while Joseph accuses her of slipping away.
Turning toward the exit, the blonde lady prepares to open the doors.
The brown-haired duke greets the crown prince, offering the finest imported tea and desserts.
Looking toward the sofa, the Duke pauses as he notices something unusual about the setting.
The Duke shouts at the blonde lady, accusing the servants of playing petty tricks. In a chibi thought bubble, Roseanne clarifies to the Duke that the servants aren't responsible. Roseanne points to a mess nearby while a loud, shocked gasp sounds from the Duke.
Falling to his knees, the Duke mourns the destruction of a rare, expensive foreign purchase.
Turning away, the Duke wonders why the valuable item has been shattered into tiny pieces.
Roseanne calmly admits she threw it, confirming her father's worst fears with a steady gaze.
The Duke shakes Roseanne frantically, begging her to stop her reckless and destructive behavior.
Roseanne counters that the Crown Prince acted just as recklessly, leaving Prince Joseph speechless.
The Duke coughs nervously, attempting to justify the prince's reaction as a necessary defensive response. Shaking her head, the blonde lady firmly insists that the Crown Prince threw the first object.
The Duke pleads for peace, holding Roseanne's shoulders to end the volatile and escalating argument. While Joseph thinks she's pathetic, the Duke apologizes, claiming the princess has been feeling unwell.
Roseanne decides to leave the room, telling her father to clean up the mess himself.
A quick grab sounds as the Duke catches her arm, pleading for her to stay. Roseanne wonders why her father feels so burdened that he is desperate for her to remain.
The Duke holds her hand tightly while she addresses him with cold, formal distance.
A sudden gasp sounds as Roseanne calls her father pathetic and tells him to handle everything.
Roseanne walks away, ignoring the Duke's desperate calls as she prepares to depart the mansion. A shot of the garden carriage shows Roseanne reflecting on the Emperor's hidden and dangerous knowledge.
Looking into a mirror, Roseanne realizes the Emperor keeps his secrets even from his own son.
Roseanne reflects on imperial greed while a blue-tinted vision shows Joseph as a mere political rival. A final thought bubble clarifies that the Emperor views the prince as a threat to his throne.
Sitting alone, Roseanne wonders if the prince truly views her as an emotionless, mechanical puppet.
A sharp crunch sounds as Roseanne grips her chair, offended at being regarded as less than human.
Glowing with power, Roseanne regrets that sealing magic prevents her from taking the Emperor's life.
Looking at her bleeding palm, Roseanne acknowledges her physical weakness makes a palace assault impossible.
The blonde lady's expression softens as she contemplates her unique relationship with the Mad Duke.
Visualizing Chaitton, Roseanne reflects on how his inner madness makes her presence indispensable to him.
Roseanne smiles knowingly, naming Chaitton Barpheus as a central figure in her upcoming strategic plans.
A quick knock sounds against the ornate door, and Roseanne calmly invites the visitor inside. The maid enters and waits as the blonde lady prepares to assign her several specific tasks. A confused what sounds as the maid stares in shock at the requested secret mission.
Roseanne instructs the maid to visit the Duke's mansion under the guise of delivering a simple message.
Roseanne notes the maid's diligence and wonders why she is so hesitant to approach the Duke.
Blushing, the maid claims she cannot be tempted even if offered a reward for the task.
Roseanne suggests sending another servant if the maid is uncomfortable, causing her immediate panic.
The maid explains that mention of the Duke's name is taboo and could lead to firing.
Roseanne listens to the maid's excuses while leaning on the table, looking completely and utterly unconvinced. A loud snap sounds as the chair's armrest breaks under the maid's nervous, guilty grip.
Panicked, the maid attempts to hide the damage while Roseanne offers a handful of sparkling jewelry.
Roseanne tosses more jewels, telling the stunned maid she can have them for a single errand. The maid's hands overflow with sparkling rings and jewels, leaving her completely stunned and speechless. Roseanne promises the entire collection of valuable jewelry as a reward for completing the secret task.
The blonde lady's calm gaze challenges the maid to dare refuse such a generous offer.
Empowered by greed, the maid declares her intent to visit the Duke's mansion immediately.
Roseanne reminds her that the Duke isn't home, dismissing the maid's concerns about the taboo.
Overjoyed, the maid promises to make her presence known, even suggesting a dramatic, flashy entrance.
A firm slap sounds as Roseanne places her hand on a book and orders a jeweler.
Roseanne opens a jewelry box, deciding she needs to replenish her sparkling collection.
A firm click sounds as Roseanne realizes the jewelry box is completely empty.
Roseanne instructs the shocked maid to put the new jewelry on the Duke's account.
Roseanne reflects on her father's coldness and decides a mere jeweler isn't enough.
A playful chuckle sounds as Roseanne orders a designer to help spend the wealth.
A firm click sounds as the maid rushes off to fulfill her new duties. Sitting at her vanity, Roseanne notes a gemstone is much larger than expected. The blonde lady examines a sparkling red jewel with a critical and calculating gaze. A soft whisper sounds as maids gossip about someone being absent-minded since breakfast.
Roseanne gazes at the sky, spotting a white cloud shaped like a small rabbit.
The maid asks what shape she should look for next among the drifting clouds. A loud shout echoes as Roseanne notes the arrival of her fuming father. A sudden whoosh sounds as the Duke storms toward Roseanne in the garden. Waving a paper, the Duke screams while Roseanne calmly identifies it as an invoice.
Fuming with anger, the Duke looms over the princess, who remains entirely unbothered.
Roseanne asks if he provided money, leaving the Duke speechless and utterly bewildered.
The blonde lady asserts that providing for a child is the Duke's parental duty. Standing over her, the Duke prepares to deliver a stern lecture on financial responsibility. A soft tap sounds as the Duke hands over the invoice for her education. The Duke continues his lecture about the consequences of making reckless and impulsive expenses.
Crossing his arms, the Duke tells her to learn from this expensive aftermath.
Roseanne retorts that she lacks money, so the bills remain his burden to handle.
Pointing at her, the Duke suggests she sell her jewelry to cover her debts.
A confused hum sounds as Roseanne processes her father's unexpected suggestion to sell items. Roseanne jumps up, asking for confirmation if she can truly sell the valuable jewelry.
A quick shout sounds as Roseanne orders her maid to sell all consigned items.
Looking at the greenery, Roseanne demands that every single item be sold immediately. The maid scurries away to follow orders while the Duke watches her departure. Surprised, the Duke realizes she actually plans to clean up her own financial mess.
The Duke tells her to take this lesson and avoid impulsive spending henceforth.
He further instructs Roseanne to fix her casual speech toward the Crown Prince.
Roseanne defends speaking casually to the prince, dismissing him as a mere brat.
The Duke warns her to watch her actions while Roseanne calls him truly pathetic.
A soft sigh sounds as she explains that royalty cannot punish her so easily.
Roseanne explains the political folly of destroying a core faction over minor insults.
Mockingly, she views the prince as a kitten who hasn't even ascended the throne.
Roseanne clarifies she only sold the Emperor's secret gifts, not any official ones. A loud crackle sounds as the Duke reels from the shock of her news.
The Duke panics while Roseanne maintains that the Emperor cannot kill them yet.
A sharp snap sounds as Roseanne offers to save him if the Emperor attacks. Roseanne reflects on being the strongest in the Empire while serving as his child. A vibrant shot of pink roses highlights the garden's serene and elegant atmosphere. Smiling, the blonde lady addresses her father as Duke, maintaining her cold, formal distance.
The Duke grips her shoulders, noting that their arrangement has been extended again.
A soft inhale sounds as Roseanne smells a delicate pink rose in the garden.
Roseanne notes the flowers will be in full bloom by tomorrow, intensifying their scent.
The dark-haired maid approaches, politely asking what the lady plans to do today.
Looking at a rose, Roseanne explains she will spend the day observing the garden. Bright sunlight shines on green sprouts as Roseanne plans to measure their daily growth. The maid suggests other fun activities while Roseanne leans forward to inspect the plants.
Observing a bird's nest, Roseanne reflects on Chaitton's return while walking in the garden.
Standing beside a massive black wolf, the red-haired warrior contemplates the Empire's power balance.
The dark-haired maid makes a polite suggestion while the blonde lady listens with curiosity. In a chibi thought bubble, Roseanne bluntly reveals she has no friends to invite.
Looking thoughtful, the maid scratches her head as she tries to devise a new plan.
Roseanne appears bored and unimpressed, questioning the maid's persistence with a skeptical, steady gaze.
The maid excitedly offers the library key while Roseanne credits the jewels for this cooperation.
A male servant sprints toward them in the garden, signaling an urgent and unexpected arrival.
He announces that Miss Brina from Potlenga has arrived, seeking an audience with the princess.
Roseanne's expression hardens as she senses trouble while the maid looks on with surprise. Roseanne identifies the guest as the galaxy person, which the nervous male servant quickly confirms.
The blonde lady tells the servant to let the uninvited guest wait a while longer. Digging through her memories, Roseanne realizes she and Brina had a very poor relationship.
The maid wonders if Brina wants to be friends, but Roseanne remains deeply doubtful.
A chibi Roseanne dismisses the maid's friendship theory with a blank, entirely unconvinced expression.
The maid explains Brina's prestigious title while Roseanne expresses a total lack of social interest. Roseanne reflects on the title's origin, finding it fortunate that its true history remains hidden. A night scene at a camp reveals a dilemma regarding the crown prince's future consort. Inside a tent, the red-haired warrior asks the king for a way to summon ladies.
She suggests selecting a young lady at the banquet and awarding her a prestigious title.
Delighted, the king praises the hero's wise suggestion and thanks her for the brilliant idea.
Pushing the curtain aside, the red-haired woman departs, feeling deeply annoyed by the king's reaction.
Current Roseanne realizes they used her lazy suggestion from a past life as literal law.
A past vision shows the king claiming credit for the title while his sycophant claps. The maid encourages Roseanne to seek the title, but the blonde lady rejects the idea.
Despite the maid's insistence on beauty, Roseanne remains firm in her refusal to participate socially.
Surrounded by blue flowers, Roseanne questions the logic behind these superficial and arbitrary beauty standards.
The blonde lady notes that she hasn't fully absorbed the memories this body once held.
Walking away, Roseanne dismisses the prince's consort role as a truly dreadful and unwanted prospect.
Approaching the mansion, Roseanne decides to confront the uninvited visitor and end the matter quickly.
A soft tap sounds as Roseanne prepares to enter the room where the guest waits.
Stepping inside, Roseanne finds Brina sitting on the sofa looking deeply dissatisfied with the wait. Miss Brina hides behind her fan while a guard named Mark stands stoically behind her.
A sharp snap sounds as Brina closes her fan, staring at Roseanne with visible disdain.
Roseanne sits across from her, trying to recall a distant memory regarding the Potlenga family.
Brina immediately accuses Roseanne of rudeness for the long wait and for failing to greet her.
Leaning back, Roseanne calmly demands an apology from the intruder before any greetings are exchanged.
Brina is shocked by the label while Roseanne sits with a calm, dominant, and bored posture.
The blonde lady demands that Brina say what is necessary and leave the mansion immediately.
Brina's guard, Mark, reacts with anger, but his mistress orders him to hold his position.
Brina mocks Roseanne's lack of education, suggesting that uneducated people are naturally rude and ignorant.
Looking at Roseanne, Brina smugly concludes that rumors of the princess losing her mind are true.
A memory flashes in Rosanna's mind as she connects the Patlanga name to a secret.
Roseanne remains indifferent to Brina's insults, focused only on the information she has just recalled. Opening her fan, Brina declares her intent to give advice to the supposedly disgraced princess.
A stern textual warning warns Roseanne not to harbor foolish ideas about the crown prince.
Roseanne claps her hands in realization, remembering how Brina's family bought their way into nobility.
Laughing, Roseanne exposes the fraud of their status, causing Brina to freeze with absolute horror.
Panic sets in as Brina realizes her family's century-old secret has been discovered by the princess.
A sharp snap sounds as Brina reaches her breaking point, unable to endure another word.
Mark shouts a furious warning about the blonde princess's perceived rudeness toward his master. Her hand rests against the soft fabric as the princess prepares her next calculated response.
Brina stammers in shock as the blonde lady maintains her eerily calm and steady composure.
High above the drawing room, Brina reels from the news of Roseanne's unexpected duel acceptance.
Roseanne blinks in genuine confusion, processing the sudden and heavy weight of the duel challenge.
The blonde lady remains entirely bewildered, wondering if this confrontation has truly spiraled into combat. Brina scolds her guard for acting without permission, while Mark defends his protective and loyal actions.
Hiding behind her fan, Brina insists that the accepted dueling tradition must be strictly honored.
Roseanne reflects on simpler times when duels were settled by drawing swords and charging forward.
Brina declares that the duel date will be sent later, much to Roseanne's immediate disappointment.
Reaching for the door, the blonde lady instructs her maid to find a worthy knight champion.
Standing by the open door, Brina mocks the princess's chances of finding anyone brave enough.
Sunlight bathes the massive estate as a servant's voice echoes through the grand and ornate courtyard.
The dark-haired maid begs Roseanne to cancel the duel, fearing Sir Mark's legendary combat skills.
An owl-crested shield highlights the prestige of the opponent that the princess must now face.
Walking through the mansion, Roseanne considers fighting herself while the maid warns of public ridicule.
Roseanne feels deeply annoyed, realizing that revealing her hidden strength would alert the suspicious emperor.
Arriving at their destination, the blonde lady is surprised by the maid's sudden and cheerful excitement.
The scene reveals a rack of gleaming weapons as they finally reach the mansion's training grounds.
Observing the lounging Lilithan knights, Roseanne is immediately repulsed by their obvious lack of discipline.
Standing before the idle warriors, the blonde lady tells her maid to announce her formal arrival.
The maid shouts for respect, but the lazy knights barely move from their comfortable seated positions.
Lounging on the stairs, the disrespectful knights whisper among themselves about the duke's supposed arrival.
Roseanne notes with growing disdain that not a single knight has bothered to offer a bow.
After a moment of cold eye contact, the knights offer only a lazy and dismissive nod.
Rejecting more shouting, Roseanne decides to confront the useless knights personally to settle the matter.
The blonde lady walks toward the stairs, her presence drawing the wary eyes of the group. Standing over them, Roseanne bluntly questions why they are receiving wages for doing absolutely nothing.
The princess gazes down at the idle men with a cold, piercing, and utterly judgmental stare.
Roseanne imagines the brutal discipline she would have enforced in her past life as the hero.
The knights claim they are just passing time, leaving the blonde lady feeling thoroughly unimpressed.
Without a hint of hesitation, Roseanne coldly informs the entire group that they are all fired. Shocked by the sudden dismissal, the lazy knights scramble to their feet in vocal and desperate protest. Roseanne mocks their entitlement, pointing out how lucky they were to have such an easy job.
Despite the maid's worried protests, the blonde lady remains firm in her decision to purge the ranks.
A knight arrogantly claims that only the duke has the legal authority to fire royal guards.
Entirely unbothered, Roseanne simply orders her maid to bring the duke to finalize their immediate dismissal.
The blonde lady decides the duke must take full responsibility for hiring such incompetent and lazy men.
As the knights whisper in fear, Roseanne dismisses them all as a pathetic excuse for warriors.
A brown-haired knight smiles dismissively, lying about their training to save his own reputation.
Roseanne mocks his claim, noting his soft skin proves he hasn't done any real work today. The knight captain offers a hollow apology while blaming the princess for provoking his men's anger.
Surrounded by his fellow knights, the captain insists they are dedicated warriors who train very hard. A slight smile plays on Roseanne's lips as she mentions the duel challenge from Sir Mark. Looking at the gathered men, the princess asks for a volunteer to defend her royal honor.
An oppressive silence falls over the training ground as every single knight refuses to step forward.
Roseanne laughs at their hypocrisy, mocking them for being paid while too afraid to actually fight. The knights make pathetic excuses, calling the duel inefficient because the opponent is far too powerful.
Roseanne's gaze turns icy as she calls them out for their cowardice and fragility under pressure.
A sudden, sharp ahem sounds as the knight captain tries to find another weak excuse for his fear.
The brown-haired knight commander mocks Roseanne, claiming she would lose to mere thugs.
Enraged by her calm retort, the knight commander demands respect and threatens the princess.
Roseanne offers a defiant smile, questioning who is actually the one tolerating the other.
Dismissing the group as weak wildcats, Roseanne mocks their inability to perform basic duties.
A sharp clack sounds as the commander grips his sword hilt to prove himself.
The brown-haired man stares intensely at Roseanne, determined to demonstrate his superior combat skill.
Closing her eyes, Roseanne dismisses his aggressive behavior as worse than the thugs he mentioned.
Tension rises as a subtle rattle sounds when the man prepares to draw his blade.
Roseanne demands he draw his sword, insisting that he must prove himself to be respected.
A quick snap echoes as the commander tries to draw his blade with a show.
A low rattle sounds while the man struggles desperately to pull the sword from its scabbard. He lets out a loud, frustrated "ugh," unable to move his own weapon an inch. Shock washes over the knight commander as he realizes his sword is inexplicably stuck fast.
Looking down at his hand, he wonders why the blade refuses to leave its sheath. His men cheer him on, but the commander sweats and tells them to shut up.
The brown-haired man trembles, realizing he is being completely overwhelmed by Roseanne's hidden pressure.
A massive silhouette of the glowing-eyed princess looms over the terrified and paralyzed knight commander.
Roseanne's shadow falls over her face as she asks if he has any more complaints.
Staring into her piercing blue eyes, the man realizes his very life is under threat. Covering his mouth in fear, the sweating commander stammers that he has absolutely nothing left to say. A loud thud echoes as the knight commander drops to one knee, begging for forgiveness. Roseanne looks down at her defeated opponent with a cold, triumphant, and knowing expression.
The commander shouts at his confused men, ordering them to apologize to the young lady.
Terrified, the commander warns his knights to apologize quickly if they want to survive today.
Despite their grumbling, the group of knights follows their commander's lead and prepares to bow.
Standing before the group, Roseanne accepts the formal apology from the once arrogant and lazy knights. Surrounded by roses, Roseanne reflects that for knights, only strength and rank truly matter.
The blonde lady notes that even the commander at the top has finally bowed to her.
As Roseanne turns to leave, the commander offers an escort while the maid watches nearby. Spotting someone unexpected, the blonde lady stops in her tracks with a look of surprise.
Roseanne questions the maid, River, for returning so quickly from her supposed errand.
Chibi River explains the Duke was away, admitting she witnessed the entire intense confrontation. Asking for her name, Roseanne learns that the observant, dark-haired maid is called River.
A soft tap sounds as the princess places a sparkling ring into River's open palm.
Roseanne instructs the maid to ensure that today's events remain a strictly guarded secret.
Delighted by the bribe, River happily promises to keep her mouth shut about everything.
The maid suggests calling a carriage for the return, which Roseanne finds quite agreeable.
Walking away, Roseanne feels confident the knights won't brag about such an embarrassing defeat.
River laughs cheerfully as the blonde lady reflects on successfully managing her mansion staff.
A dull thud echoes through the empty training grounds as the scene shifts to silent weapons. The knights begin to depart, leaving behind those who only cared for their wounded pride. Grunts of exertion echo as the remaining knights finally begin training with genuine discipline. Roseanne concludes that despite the recent victory, she still lacks a single capable knight. Standing by her carriage, Roseanne sighs and considers fighting the upcoming duel herself.
In the garden, River expresses worry about the princess's lack of preparation for the duel. The maid urgently suggests hiring famous mercenaries with the Duke's leftover money for protection.
Enraged, Roseanne rejects the idea of giving her money to such shameless and unreliable brutes.
Memories of thieving mercenaries flash through Roseanne's mind, making her expression harden with anger.
An awkward silence follows as River watches the princess remain lost in her frustrated thoughts.
River begs the princess to reconsider, fearing for her lady's honor if the duel is lost.
Roseanne questions the value of her tarnished honor while River gazes back with shock.
In a series of chibi panels, the blonde lady and her maid stutter in disbelief.
Stretching casually, Roseanne dismisses the stress of winning and losing as a mere trifle. Stopping suddenly, the princess demands to hear more about the betting pools River mentioned. Roseanne's eyes light up with intense interest as she probes for the duel's location.
Seeking financial freedom, the blonde lady admits her desperate need for a massive gold windfall.
Roseanne points commandingly, ordering River to lead her to the betting parlor before it closes.
A scratch sounds as a guest bets 1 million gold on Potlinga's victory in the ballroom. The gathered nobles laugh, viewing any bet placed on Roseanne as a total waste of money. A brown-haired man in green mocks the princess's chances of winning the upcoming duel. Laughter echoes as guests joke about the interesting scenario of Roseanne betting on her opponent. The man in green laughs cruelly, noting Roseanne should have just married him to avoid humiliation. Lady Jagelia and a pink-haired woman agree that the princess cannot trust her own knights. Standing before the ledger, the noble group invites Lady Potlinga to finalize her high-stakes bet. Dipping her pen, the pink-haired lady prepares to wager 10 million gold against the princess. Signing with a flourish, the woman pledges her support to Sir Mark for his honorable combat. With a confident smile, the pink-haired lady notes her superior suitability for the role of crown princess. A loud bang sounds as a sudden commotion outside the ballroom startles the arrogant guests. A booming voice declares her arrival despite previously stating she would not attend the ball.
A sharp tack-tock sounds as Roseanne enters the room, her golden dress shimmering with elegance.
Walking past the stunned nobles, the princess moves with a grace that demands immediate attention. The crowd gasps in disbelief, barely recognizing the radiant Lady Laylatin standing before them today. The brown-haired man in green stammers Roseanne's name, his face pale with sudden visible terror. Pointing directly at him, the blonde princess identifies the man who spoke ill of her. A rhythmic tack-tock sounds as the princess announces a staggering bet of 30 million gold. Roseanne looms over the cowering young lord, waiting for his response to her outrageous wager. Shock and confusion ripple through the group as they witness the princess's bold and confrontational entry.
In a chibi struggle, Roseanne aggressively grabs the man's face to ensure he understands her.
Pointing at the ledger, the blonde lady repeats her firm desire to participate in the betting. An indignant sounds as Roseanne demands to know exactly who the man bet on. Pointing at the pink-haired lady, Roseanne questions if she should bet on the rival house instead. The man in green and the pink-haired lady stare in silent, paralyzed awe at Roseanne. The pink-haired woman argues that betting against Sir Mark is akin to declaring open war.
Roseanne turns the tables, questioning if betting against her family is also an act of war.
Stunned into total silence, the pink-haired lady can only stare at the princess's piercing gaze. Guests whisper in shock, noting that the illegitimate princess has never shown such strength before. Dark, judging eyes once watched the princess from the corners of every grand imperial ballroom. Now framed in gold, Roseanne's overwhelming presence dominates the room and silences every single critic. Looking on with wide eyes, the nobles realize the once faint lady has become a formidable force.
A thought bubble dismisses the high-stakes confrontation as nothing more than a simple, fun bet.
Roseanne offers a defiant smile, mocking those who treat her life's honor as mere entertainment.
A sharp huff sounds as the man in green desperately tries to normalize the tense situation.
Gesturing toward the table, the blonde lady prepares to finalize her 30 million gold wager officially.
Writing with determination, Roseanne declares that her family's signature is the ultimate guarantee of payment.
Having made her point, the blonde lady turns to leave the uninvited guests to themselves.
A heavy thud sounds as the massive doors slam shut behind the departing and triumphant princess.
Whispers fill the room as nobles remark that the Duke has raised a dangerous tiger cub.
Leaning against a column, a dark-haired man watches with interest, sensing the shifting social tide.
A quick tap-tap sounds as the maid's feet blur across the grass toward the garden.
River arrives breathless in the sunlit garden, apologizing for the chaotic events of the day. River bites her nails, worried about tomorrow's duel and a massive gold wager. Sipping her tea, Roseanne strictly forbids her maid from mentioning mercenaries again.
Near a bird's nest, the blonde lady insists she has already spoken her mind.
Clenching her fists, Roseanne vows to accept nothing less than total victory in life. River emphasizes that securing a knight is essential to win back their gold.
The maid worries they missed their last chance, but Roseanne remains skeptical.
Roseanne recalls a dismissal while explaining that the opportunistic knight only wanted credit.
While the blonde lady maintains her high standards, River vows to work even harder.
Roseanne questions why her maid is so personally invested in her employer's duel.
A nervous River scratches her cheek, admitting she appreciates the lady's generosity.
A quick snap sounds as River confesses her hope for a personal reward.
Roseanne finds the honest, selfish motive far more acceptable than fake loyalty. The princess warns River that any future lies will result in immediate termination.
Bowing respectfully, River promises to remember the lady's warning while she continues her work. In chibi form, Roseanne asks for a key, but River prioritizes the duel.
River explains the Duke's anger over the betting has delayed her current mission.
Placing her tea down, Roseanne notes a lingering sense of unease regarding recent events. The blonde lady wonders how her internal staff issues became common public knowledge.
Roseanne concludes that the information leak must have come from within her own household.
River looks on with a troubled expression as the mystery of the leak deepens.
A butler interrupts their conversation to announce the arrival of an uninvited guest.
A sharp thud sounds as the butler bows, awaiting the blonde lady's instructions.
The butler formally announces that Grand Duke Barpheus has arrived at the garden.
Roseanne orders the butler to escort him, claiming she has been waiting eagerly.
Despite her maid's concerns, the princess refuses to let 30 million gold go.
Roseanne points commandingly, fully committed to her plan regardless of the potential risks.
The scene shifts inside as the Grand Manor's chandeliers glow with opulent light.
Standing amidst blooming roses, Roseanne prepares herself for the high-stakes meeting ahead.
Grand Duke Barpheus sits on the sofa, determined not to be swayed today.
Sitting beside the princess, the dark-haired man tries to maintain his stoic composure.
Barpheus questions why Roseanne hasn't reached out to him since her sudden departure. The pair sits together in the drawing room, an awkward silence filling the space.
The Grand Duke admits he was waiting for her to contact him first.
Looking away with a blush, Barpheus reveals a softer side beneath his cold exterior.
Thoughts of her casual manner continue to fluster the powerful and noble Grand Duke.
Barpheus remains blushing and flustered while Roseanne watches him with a confused stare. Clearing his throat, the Grand Duke asks if the princess is truly doing well. Barpheus mentions Joseph's visit and the pressures placed on her to avoid him.
The Grand Duke apologizes for failing to consider the intense political scrutiny she faces.
Symbolic webs surround the Duchess as imperial pressure threatens to trap her completely.
Barpheus offers support, but Roseanne shifts the topic to the anonymous 50 million gold bet.
Caught off guard, the Grand Duke stammers at the sudden mention of the wager.
Roseanne explains the logic behind why almost no one would bet on her victory.
The blonde lady notes her poor reputation makes her a very unlikely betting choice.
Roseanne leans in, correctly identifying the Grand Duke as her secret, high-stakes benefactor.
Panic sets in for Barpheus as his anonymous support is so easily unmasked. A muffled chatter sounds as Barpheus recalls tipping a servant to place his bet.
The princess continues to probe, questioning the real reason behind his personal visit.
Roseanne asks why he came himself instead of sending a simple letter or messenger.
With a triumphant smile, the blonde lady waits for the Grand Duke's honest response.
Barpheus touches his hair, realizing he cannot hide his true thoughts from this perceptive woman.
The flustered Grand Duke looks away while Roseanne maintains a smug and confident smile beside him.
A loud bang sounds as Roseanne slams the table, rejecting the offer of a substitute knight.
With glowing blue eyes, the princess clarifies that a standard knight order is not her goal. Roseanne points directly at Barpheus, demanding that the Grand Duke himself step forward for the duel. The Grand Duke is stunned by the request, but Roseanne mocks his limited definition of knighthood.
Memories of war and conflict surround the commander of the elite Imperial Shadow Knights. Roseanne argues that no one in the Empire is more knightly than the powerful Grand Duke.
Barpheus stares intently, acknowledging her logic but remains internally conflicted about stepping into the public spotlight. Barpheus questions if his words were heard, but the blonde lady dismisses his hesitation with ease.
The Grand Duke tries to apologize, fearing his presence has endangered her and her noble family.
Sitting together, Barpheus warns Roseanne that getting close to him offers her no political advantage. Glancing down at her ornate necklace, the blonde lady mutters a quiet, mysterious response to his warning.
Barpheus asks for clarification, but the princess remains silent and serious as she turns away.
Roseanne recalls a vision of a young boy knight, noting that Barpheus suddenly feels quite childlike.
Roseanne suggests that if he truly worries, he should make their arrangement beneficial for her instead.
Memories of their shared intimacy flash through Barpheus's mind as he questions how she helped him. Barpheus clenches his sleeve, admitting he will provide compensation for the trouble he has caused her.
A sudden thud sounds as the Grand Duke stops her, declaring that she must come to him.
Barpheus leans in closely, telling the princess she no longer needs to worry about the prince.
The blonde lady mentions gold, leaving the Grand Duke looking confused by her sudden financial focus.
Roseanne strikes a triumphant pose, ordering him to gather a massive fortune and bring it back.
Roseanne reveals she handled the crown prince herself by claiming she would get close to Barpheus.
Barpheus grows suspicious, wondering why the bloodthirsty prince would leave the palace so quietly.
Roseanne casually explains that the prince threw a teacup, so she simply threw one back at him.
Barpheus stands up in total shock, horrified to learn the prince attacked her with a teacup.
Holding his head, the Grand Duke calls Joseph insane while Roseanne reaffirms her defiant retaliation.
Barpheus frantically checks the princess for injuries, urging her to see a doctor for potential shock.
The Grand Duke warns that even a tiny glass shard could lead to a dangerous infection.
Roseanne is stunned by his extreme concern over such a minor and trivial incident.
Roseanne assures him she is fine, and a wave of visible relief washes over the Duke.
Barpheus probes for more details, asking if the prince committed any other acts of violence.
Roseanne reveals that Joseph threatened her life and the total annihilation of her entire noble family. Standing alone by the window, the blonde lady reflects on the heavy weight of the imperial threats.
Barfius' expression turns cold and angry as he insults the Emperor's vicious and puppet-like hero.
The Grand Duke reasons that even the prince wouldn't summon a hero for such petty personal matters.
Barfius walks across the sunlit drawing room, approaching the princess with a newfound sense of determination.
The Grand Duke declares that regardless of imperial commands, an innocent duchess will not be killed.
Roseanne looks up in surprise as the powerful man stands before her, offering his unexpected protection.
A reflection in her eyes shows the Duke as Roseanne processes his vow to protect the innocent.
Watching Barfius struggle with his composure, Roseanne decides she must keep this man by her side.
Barfius asks if they are returning to the complicated subject of their fake romantic alliance.
A sharp gasp sounds as the Grand Duke is flustered by the reminder of their agreement. Roseanne reminds him that they already agreed to pretend to be in love for the public.
Barfius stares at his trembling hand, fighting the urge to actually hold on to the princess.
An ornate, glowing seal frames the title of the Grand Duke, marking a major narrative shift.
Roseanne tells him to ignore the opinions of others and simply hold on until the end.
With a brilliant and inviting smile, the blonde lady extends her hand toward the Grand Duke.
Barfius stares at her with a deep blush, clearly moved by her direct and confident invitation.
Hand in hand, the pair stands together in the light, ready to face the coming social storm.
The grand manor gleams under a bright sky as the long-awaited day finally arrives.
Guests gather in the decorated courtyard for the perfectly arranged and highly anticipated social event.
Lady Portland sneers at Roseanne, plotting a public humiliation that will banish her from society. Smiling triumphantly, the pink-haired lady reveals that the massive turnout makes postponing the duel impossible.
Lady Portland introduces Sub-Viscount Giselia to serve as the impartial referee for the coming wager.
Despite River's visible frustration, the blonde lady calmly accepts the trap-like terms of the duel.
Lady Portland mocks the princess, questioning if she has even managed to secure a knight.
The pink-haired lady laughs, declaring a forfeit, until a sudden voice interrupts the tense scene. Shock ripples through the crowd as a mysterious figure arrives to settle the sudden delay.
Roseanne maintains a smug and knowing smile, fully prepared for the dramatic turn of events.
Grand Duke Barfius makes a stunning entrance, bowing respectfully to his partner before the crowd. Panic overtakes Lady Portland as she stammers, questioning why the powerful Grand Duke is present.
Standing beside the blonde lady, Barfius prepares to confront his skeptics with cool, noble authority.
The dark-haired Duke shuts down the questioning, refusing to explain his personal motivations to Portland. Lady Portland trembles, realizing the social ruin she faces if her champion falls to royalty.
Desperation kicks in as the pink-haired lady cries out against the perceived unfairness of it all.
Clutching her fan, Lady Portland screams in protest, her carefully laid trap backfiring on her.
The pink-haired lady argues that royalty cannot duel, desperately citing knighthood as a strict requirement.
In chibi form, the pink-haired lady continues to wail about the absurdity of the situation.
Roseanne retorts that the Archduke is the Emperor's sworn knight, framing Portland's rejection as treason.
Barfius ends the debate, demanding they begin the fight while the blonde lady watches confidently. With a flutter of the manor flag, the duel proceeds as Portland is forced into compliance.
A tense silence follows as Barfius and the nervous Sir Mark face off in the circle.
Drawing his blade, Sir Mark promises not to underestimate the powerful Duke during their clash. A quick snap sounds as Barfius casually beckons his opponent forward with a bored expression.
A sudden quick ta-at sounds as the knight in blue lunges forward with his sword. Sir Mark is horrified to realize the Duke intends to win without even unsheathing his blade.
A sharp metallic kang sounds as Barfius effortlessly parries the strike using his sheathed sword. Towering over his faltering opponent, the Grand Duke prepares to end the duel with one strike. Red eyes glowing, Barfius strikes as a heavy puck sound confirms the massive impact of his blow.
A final heavy kung sounds as Sir Mark is sent crashing to the ground, defeated instantly.
Barfius orders the stunned Sub-Viscount to declare the winner, ending the brief and one-sided duel.
The crowd erupts in cheers as the indifferent Grand Duke turns away from the fallen knight. A loud thud sounds as Lady Portland slams the table, screaming at the impossible, swift defeat. Sipping her tea with total composure, Roseanne enjoys the sight of Portland's complete and utter shock. The blonde lady marvels at how easily she earned her fortune while Portland shakes with rage. Consumed by pure hatred, the pink-haired lady glares while the princess laughs behind her teacup.
Moonlight bathes the manor in a serene glow as the eventful day draws to a close. Inside the drawing room, Roseanne admires her massive winnings while River offers her heartfelt congratulations.
Touching the gold coins, the blonde lady dreams of the freedom this fortune will finally buy.
River warns of marriage rumors, but Roseanne remains unbothered by the public's whispers about the Duke.
A quick snap sounds as Roseanne reaches out to get her nervous maid's full attention.
Chibi River frets over the size of her bonus, feeling her efforts don't justify such generosity.
Roseanne clarifies she is asking for the library key, not questioning the maid's hard-earned reward.
The blonde lady assures River that she never reclaims a gift, leaving the maid looking relieved. With a joyful Chan sound, River presents the golden key she kept safe just in case.
Roseanne takes the key, planning a morning visit to the library for her next secret objective.
Dismissing her loyal maid for the night, the princess instructs River to get some well-deserved rest.
Alone at last, Roseanne prepares to head out into the manor for her own private mission.
A rhythmic tok-gok sounds as the blonde lady carries a lantern through the dark, silent hallway.
Roseanne stands before the large, ornate library doors, ready to begin her secret night investigation.
A metallic click sounds as the blonde lady uses the key to finally unlock the quiet library.
Roseanne enters the massive sun-drenched library, determined to uncover the truth about her past military expedition.
Seeking the Empire's hidden history, the blonde lady pulls a heavy volume from the towering shelves. Roseanne sighs as a long exhale escapes her, exhausted after copying countless historical records into the night.
The blonde lady realizes the imperial family might find clues about her identity if they check her reading.
Historical scrolls glorify the Emperor's divine conquests while carefully omitting the true efforts of the Empire's heroes. A heavy thud sounds as Roseanne closes the book, frustrated to find no mention of her unit.
Sitting dejectedly, the blonde lady notes that even honorable knights are treated as mere disposable tools. A sharp gasp sounds as Roseanne suddenly senses a mysterious presence watching her from the dark shadows.
A soft swish and rhythmic thud sound as the blonde lady hears footsteps approaching her in the dark.
Gripping the doorframe, Roseanne wonders if a spy planted in the manor is finally revealing themselves. With a sudden whoosh, the blonde lady's eyes glow as she lunges to intercept the intruder. A quick snap sounds as Roseanne expertly slams the mysterious intruder into the library floor. A sharp clang rings out as the blonde lady overpowers the struggling man in the darkness. A heavy thud sounds as Roseanne pins the gasping intruder down, demanding to know his master.
The blonde lady stares coldly at the man, warning him to speak the truth without playing games.
Noticing calluses on his palms, Roseanne continues to choke the struggling man, questioning his imperial mission.
A soft rustle sounds as the blonde lady realizes the spy's loyalty remains unshaken despite his weakness.
Pained groan and wheeze sounds fill the quiet library as the man continues his fruitless struggle. Roseanne wonders if the intruder's lack of professional training is an intentional distraction or genuine incompetence. The blonde lady looks toward the lit doorway, deciding she needs more light to identify her captive.
A sudden pop sounds as the man unexpectedly escapes her grip, leaving Roseanne looking quite surprised.
A rapid top-top sounds as the intruder flees the room, leaving the blonde lady behind in confusion.
A rhythmic thud-thud follows as Roseanne stands, unimpressed by the spy's sudden and unexpected speed.
Roseanne decides not to chase him, knowing the guards and his strangulation marks will expose him tomorrow. With a harsh grind sound, the blonde lady vows to find the spy, her eyes narrowed in determination.
The next morning, Roseanne calmly sips her tea as the brown-haired maid enters the sunlit drawing room.
River excitedly introduces a man named Henry, who she explains is the library's new assistant.
The blonde lady stares at the man in silence, processing the sudden appearance of this mysterious librarian.
Henry offers a nervous greeting, his voice sounding hoarse while he hides his neck with a thick muffler.
A soft sounds as Roseanne stares intently, suspecting the man before her is the library spy. River explains that Henry, a former aide to the Duke, transferred to the library due to health issues. A soft ahem sounds as Henry offers to guide the blonde lady through the library's complex organization.
River gleefully praises Henry's helpfulness, unaware that Roseanne's aura is darkening with intense, quiet suspicion.
The blonde lady reflects that catching the spy might be easier now that he has come directly. Staring at the man's neck, Roseanne plots a way to remove his suspicious and floral-patterned muffler. River offers to fetch tea while the new assistant prepares to lead the blonde lady to the library. A soft rumble sounds as River thanks Henry, who mentions he was working late organizing books last night. A sharp clap sounds as Roseanne snaps her fingers, dismissing her maid to go get some rest. A quick zip sounds as the brown-haired maid happily heads off to prepare snacks for their hizzard.
A bright shimmer sounds as the blonde lady adjusts Henry's muffler, her eyes narrowing as she smiles knowingly.
Henry nervously leads the way into the hall while Roseanne watches him with focused and suspicious intensity. Walking behind him, the blonde lady remains confused by his expert knot tying and incredibly suspicious behavior. The man leads her into the hallway, explaining his personal book categorization as the scene shifts forward.
Following closely, Roseanne wonders if his direct approach means he truly is just an ordinary, innocent librarian. The blonde lady feels a pang of guilt, wondering if she accidentally strangled an innocent former aide.
A metallic clink sounds as Henry unlocks the library doors, announcing the strict set of usage times.
A heavy stare follows as Roseanne focuses on his muffler, looking for any chance to reveal the marks.
Roseanne is stunned as Henry warns her to be careful of people suddenly strangling her in the dark. Roseanne stares intensely at the nervous librarian, confirming her suspicion that he is the night's intruder. Henry reacts with a startled wah as the blonde lady suddenly reaches for his suspicious floral muffler.
Pointing at the carpet, the librarian explains that the floor holds painful memories of their previous encounter.
Walking through the towering shelves, Roseanne questions if health issues truly prompted his sudden transfer to library duty.
The blonde lady remains skeptical, wondering why a top-tier aide would trade power for a menial position.
Holding a thick volume, Henry reflects that talent alone doesn't always guarantee a favorable outcome in high society. Roseanne notes his youth, but the librarian retorts that age is irrelevant for a man of his skill.
Suspicions deepen as the blonde lady realizes the man precisely tracked every single book she read last night.
Determined to uncover the truth, Roseanne prepares to snatch the muffler and reveal the strangulation marks beneath.
Henry stops her with a sudden, sharp gasp, asking what she intends to do in the quiet library.
The blonde lady offers a radiant, innocent smile to mask her cold and calculated investigative intent.
Panicking, the librarian throws a heavy book as a distraction, much to the blonde lady's sheer annoyance.
A sudden, sharp swish sounds as the book flies through the air towards the startled princess.
Lunging forward, Roseanne catches the muffler and declares that she has finally trapped the clumsy little spy.
The blonde lady stares him down, mocking the sloppy tactics of the man she nearly strangled yesterday.
Wheezing and coughing, Henry desperately denies the accusations, while Roseanne demands to know why he attacked her.
Pointing frantically toward the shelves, the librarian tries to redirect her attention away from his bruised neck. Roseanne scolds him for not speaking sooner, noting that his silent flight yesterday only confirmed her suspicions. Henry cries out in protest, arguing that her vicious glares forced him to throw the book in self-defense.
The blonde lady demands an explanation for his knowledge of her reading habits, refusing to drop her guard.
Henry admits he was testing her identity, admitting he wasn't certain she was the one from last night.
Pulling his collar down, the librarian yells that she must take responsibility for the marks on his neck.
A heavy wooden thud sounds as a broom hits the floor, signaling an unexpected and awkward interruption. A stunned worker witnesses their seemingly intimate struggle and flees the room after a frantic, stuttered apology. The worker sprints away in a total panic, leaving the two library occupants in a state of confusion.
Henry yells for the man to stop, desperate to prevent scandalous rumors from spreading throughout the manor. Grabbing him by the collar, Roseanne dismisses his concerns while the librarian frets over their ruined reputations.
The blonde lady asks if he fears the rumors, her calm expression contrasting with his visible and frantic distress. Roseanne reflects on the nature of public whispers, seemingly unbothered by the potential social fallout of their encounter.
Standing with noble grace, the princess realizes her overwhelming aura would likely terrify anyone who dared spread lies. In chibi form, Roseanne mocks his physical weakness, noting he couldn't even catch a fleeing worker with his legs. The scene shifts to a table where Henry insists they focus on the more urgent, secret matters. Roseanne leans in, declaring that whatever they discuss now must remain strictly between the two of them.
Trays of colorful macarons and fruit tarts sit beside steaming tea, setting a deceptively peaceful tone.
Sitting across from him, the blonde lady prepares to hear the truth the mysterious librarian has been hiding.
Roseanne asks if he has reported their night encounter to the Duke or any other imperial authorities.
Henry swears on his family honor that he has remained silent, his expression becoming solemn and sincere.
The blonde lady reflects on how difficult it is to control someone who cannot be swayed by gold.
Her eyes glowing with a cold intensity, Roseanne considers the lethal necessity of silencing him if he betrays her. Sipping her tea, the princess acknowledges his perceptiveness, noting he clearly felt the weight of her murderous intent. Placing a hand to his head, Henry reiterates his loyalty, claiming he truly has no desire to reveal her. A reflection in the tea shows the librarian's face as he vows not to gamble his life away.
Henry begs to enter her service to ensure mutual loyalty, but the blonde lady remains deeply unimpressed.
Staring into his eyes, Roseanne bluntly rejects his offer, her cold gaze offering no room for further negotiation. Looking at her tart, the princess explains that keeping him close would only create more vulnerabilities for her.
A fading memory of her past life as a warrior flashes by, reminding her of the cost of exploitation.
Roseanne questions the nature of their potential deal, asking if he truly seeks a mutually beneficial partnership.
Henry claims that only the princess can grant the one reward he truly desires from the entire empire.
The librarian reveals his ultimate goal is family honor, a request that visibly surprises the skeptical blonde lady. Standing before a grand portrait, Henry explains his family's long history of service ended abruptly with his generation. Henry's hand trembles as he reflects on the difficulty of returning to serve the Duke.
The assistant reveals his deep desire to restore his family honor through loyal service. Henry stares forward with a gaze of unwavering determination and solemn sincerity.
Roseanne remains coldly unimpressed, bluntly stating she has no need for his services.
A soft gah sounds as Roseanne rejects Henry's errands, claiming the maid River handles them. Henry stands abruptly, daring the blonde lady to kill him since he knows her secret.
The librarian laughs nervously, warning that his sudden disappearance would surely attract unwanted attention.
Henry insists Roseanne is too noble to murder an innocent man and sleep peacefully afterward.
Striking a confident pose, Henry boasts about his smart mind and incredibly sturdy lower body. Roseanne observes his boldness, privately acknowledging that his skill and guts are actually quite impressive. The princess tests his loyalty, asking if he would still serve her among other heirs.
Henry admits he wouldn't, his eyes closed as he ponders the political reality of their situation.
The librarian deduces that Roseanne intends to stay hidden from the Duke's watchful eye.
Roseanne questions his timing, wondering why such a perceptive man didn't approach her much sooner.
Henry explains his belief that only she can prevent their house from becoming imperial puppets.
Smiling slightly, the blonde lady notes that he truly understands the dangerous nature of her family.
Roseanne issues a cold warning, holding Henry personally responsible for any future leaks of her secret.
The princess decides to replace him, prompting a startled reaction from the desperate librarian. Roseanne commands him never to forget the ambition and resolve he displayed to serve her. Henry bows deeply, vowing to follow the princess to the very end of his life. The man reflects on her power, realizing his life is now irrevocably tied to her fate.
Henry concludes that no one else could ever surpass her as the rightful head of the house. A vision shows Roseanne crowned on a golden throne, destined to reach the pinnacle of the empire.
The princess orders the librarian to bring the intruder to her, accompanied by a group of knights.
Henry expresses confusion at her sudden urgency after she previously seemed unbothered by the spy.
A through-eye sounds as Henry learns they nearly killed the target by mistake due to a misunderstanding.
Henry sprints toward the door as Roseanne reminds him to use her name if necessary.
Reaching for an egg tart, the blonde lady considers which rival house might be watching her.
Roseanne sits alone in the library, enjoying a quiet snack amidst the growing imperial shadows.
The princess hums contentedly, finding the chef's latest creations to be exceptionally delicious. Savoring her treat, Roseanne briefly forgets the palace intrigues to enjoy this simple pleasure of dessert. Sitting in the sunlit garden, Roseanne discusses the chef's hard work with her attentive maids.
A soft click sounds as the princess hands over a bracelet as a reward for the chef.
Roseanne playfully warns the brown-haired maid not to sneak any of the fresh pancakes.
A quiet sounds as the blonde lady suddenly senses an odd disturbance in the garden.
A dark-haired maid dutifully holds a white parasol to protect her lady from the bright sun. Another maid fans the princess, ensuring she remains perfectly comfortable during her outdoor tea time. Roseanne reflects on rewarding diligence while her maids provide a constant stream of pampering.
River suggests the chef focus on research while Roseanne offers a satisfied nod of approval.
A rhythmic swish sounds as the maids present a fresh raspberry pancake to the eager princess.
River warns that the Duke's involvement makes the situation dangerous, urging her lady to stay inside.
Roseanne casually agrees while continuing her tea, appearing completely unbothered by the looming threat. The blonde lady contemplates the delay in catching the spy, feeling a sense of mild irritation.
Roseanne sighs that trouble always seems to find her whenever she tries to eat in peace.
A sudden, sharp scream sounds as the princess claims her hand slipped, causing a chaotic interruption.
A startled gasp sounds as the maids recoil in shock at their lady's unexpected and sudden action. The garden erupts in panic while Roseanne calmly notes that the knights are already approaching. The confused maids look around for the guards while the princess continues her leisurely snack.
A rhythmic tap sounds as a squad of armored knights finally arrives on the garden scene.
Roseanne points toward a tree while a brown-haired maid reports a spy's presence nearby. The princess calmly confronts a brown-haired knight and her maids about the situation.
A knight reports they found the spy, a man with dark brown hair hiding behind a tree. The Duke and his men arrive, finding the scoundrel already trapped against the large trunk. A knight nervously informs the Duke that despite catching the spy, they have encountered a problem. The Duke demands clarity as the knight explains the bizarre predicament involving a simple table knife. A rhythmic thud sounds as knights struggle to free the spy's hand, which is pinned to the tree.
The Duke stares in disbelief as the spy screams in agony while pinned by the small utensil. Looking around suspiciously, the Duke wonders who could have performed such a precise and powerful throw. Realization dawns on the Duke as he spots Roseanne leisurely enjoying tea nearby with her maids. Roseanne asks if the Duke has a question while her maids watch the tense confrontation unfold.
The Duke approaches Roseanne, warning her of the danger as she stands near the apprehended spy.
A sharp swish sounds as Roseanne calmly walks past the men toward the pinned intruder. Roseanne nonchalantly claims her hand slipped while cutting pancakes, shocking the Duke and his men.
A soft sounds as the Duke recalls her past displays of overwhelming physical strength. Leaning in, Roseanne mocks the Duke's hesitation to pull the knife out of the spy's hand. The princess moves closer, questioning why the Duke would want to remove the knife at all.
A sharp crunch sounds as Roseanne grabs the spy's pinned hand, causing him to scream in terror.
Roseanne suggests they simply interrogate the spy while he remains trapped and suffering in the garden.
The princess demands the spy speak immediately or face certain death at the hands of the Duke.
Roseanne steps between the men, dismissing the idea of execution in favor of prolonged psychological torment.
The Duke looks on in horror as Roseanne casually describes the gruesome details of his upcoming interrogation. A wet squelch sounds as Roseanne twists the knife deeper, earning her the title of a demon.
Roseanne accepts her demonic label, promising the spy a long night of endurance if he stays silent.
The princess's eyes glow with cold intensity as she assures the spy that escape is impossible. A sharp slice sounds as Roseanne outlines a schedule of torture that will continue until sunrise. The Duke and his men are visibly unsettled by the princess's casual cruelty toward the captured spy. A soft shh sounds as Roseanne demands to know who sent the man to the Duke's residence. Trembling with fear, the spy desperately begs for time to think before revealing his master.
Roseanne dismisses the guards, ordering them to prepare for a hand-switch torture session the next morning.
A sudden thud sounds as the princess stops, triggered by the spy's desperate plea for a deal.
The spy finally breaks, revealing his affiliation with the mysterious and powerful Mage Tower. Roseanne's expression hardens as she processes the involvement of her old enemies from the tower.
Memories of the mages who once sealed her away flash before the princess's cold, calculating eyes.
Sitting alone by the window, Roseanne reflects on her long-standing curse with the meddling Mage Tower.
The princess considers whether the tower is targeting her specifically or just watching the Leylaton family. Roseanne stares out at the moon, realizing her future actions will be severely restricted by this discovery.
A soft sigh sounds as the princess expresses a lonely desire for a drink in her solitude.
Savoring the quiet, Roseanne laments having no one to share a drink with in this life.
A vision of a past celebration with comrades by a bonfire reminds Roseanne of broken promises.
Henry bows deeply, promising the princess that he will ensure everything is perfect for her.
Standing by a pond, Roseanne dismisses Henry's help, claiming feeding the fish is her personal hobby.
A soft tap sounds as the princess notes Henry arrived earlier than expected for his reporting.
Roseanne reflects on the Duke's high regard for Henry, noting he nearly kept him as an aide. Henry insists on his loyalty to Roseanne, preparing to begin his first official report as her servant.
The princess acknowledges River's presence as she prepares to depart with her new high-performance assistant. Roseanne leads her retinue away, satisfied with the competent team she is finally building. The princess waits expectantly to see if her investment in the librarian's loyalty will pay off.
A flash of purple energy reveals Gary, a low-mana mage who has spent 13 years undercover. Henry confirms that the records show Gary passed the initial test to enter the Duke's service.
Roseanne questions how Gary passed despite low mana, but Henry thinks otherwise.
A rhythmic tap sounds as the librarian consults his files with a startled expression.
A soft ha-ha sounds as the princess remarks that mages are often unpredictable.
In chibi form, Henry asks if he passed while Roseanne looks at him skeptically.
Henry realizes Roseanne was testing him while she admits she wanted to see his limits. Looking at the pond, Roseanne asks about the Duke's involvement in the recent incident.
Henry reflects on the casual way his lady addresses the head of her house.
The investigation shifts toward the household staff who were close to the spy, Gary.
Standing by the water, the pair discuss the Magic Tower's silence regarding their official inquiry. Roseanne decides the Duke should handle the spy, as the infiltration predates her involvement. The blonde lady believes that letting the Duke solve his own problems is necessary growth.
Roseanne listens as Henry identifies the mysterious Tower Master by the name of Ilian. The librarian describes Ilian as a shape-shifting genius with unknown age and immense power. Roseanne realizes they must remain cautious, fearing such a powerful mage could expose her secrets. The princess halts further investigation of the Tower Master, leaving the burden to the Duke. A rhythmic tap sounds as a butler runs to announce the arrival of a visitor.
Learning the Grand Duke has arrived, Roseanne coldly orders him to wait at the gate. The princess decides to meet her guest at the gate personally, surprising her servants. Henry and the butler are confused when Roseanne rejects the use of a carriage.
Roseanne casually notes the gate is close enough to walk, much to Henry's disbelief.
A rhythmic hup sounds as River and the maids enthusiastically prepare to march with Roseanne.
The maids follow their lady with dark, determined expressions that slightly unsettle the librarian.
A carriage waits outside the grand gates under the oppressive heat of the afternoon sun.
The knights complain about being left to bake in the sun without any shade provided.
A quiet huff sounds as the Grand Duke silences his complaining men with a glare.
A sudden, sharp tighten sounds as the dark-haired man clenches his arm in mounting frustration.
A soft huff sounds as the Grand Duke worries about his dependency on magic tools.
The dark-haired man's attention is caught by an unexpected noise coming from the garden.
The Grand Duke instantly recognizes the voice of the woman he has been waiting for.
A rhythmic thud sounds as Roseanne approaches the grand gates on foot, surprising the guard.
The princess finally reaches the entrance, meeting the gaze of her stunned, dark-haired guest. Roseanne's maids are visibly exhausted from the long walk, while the princess feigns slight fatigue.
The Grand Duke is shocked she walked so far, while Roseanne claims she was stroking. Roseanne privately wonders if ordinary people find such a minor walk to be truly draining.
Concerned for her well-being, the dark-haired man reaches out to support the seemingly weak princess.
A sudden stumble sounds as Roseanne conveniently trips into the waiting arms of the visitor.
The Grand Duke catches Roseanne, pulling her close as the maids watch in stunned silence. Resting against his chest, the man feels his mental strain vanish just by touching her.
Roseanne pulls away and dismisses his concern while Henry critiques her poor acting skills.
The surrounding knights gossip about a noble lady walking so far without a single carriage.
The dark-haired man offers to let Roseanne ride in his carriage to their destination.
Roseanne accepts but surprises him by stating they won't be returning to the estate.
The Grand Duke is visibly flustered when the princess suggests they go on a date.
Roseanne maintains a calm, neutral expression while waiting for the man's inevitable stunned reaction. The dark-haired man reminds himself that acting as lovers is merely their agreed-upon cover.
A soft tisk sounds as the Grand Duke considers that this outing feels far too real.
The scene shifts to a romantic lakeside where couples enjoy peaceful rides in small boats.
The dark-haired man realizes they have arrived at a location famous for actual romantic dates.
Blushing deeply, the Grand Duke notes that the princess's actions are completely impossible to predict.
The man wonders if choosing such an excessive cover story was really necessary for their plan.
Roseanne asks the Grand Duke why he is acting so stiff as they stand together.
The blonde lady questions if the dark-haired man is actually afraid of the water.
Roseanne jokes that it would be more amusing if the water were afraid of her.
A soft tap sounds as the princess suggests they skip the boat for a lock.
The dark-haired man insists there is absolutely nothing in this world that he fears.
A soft shh sounds as the Grand Duke takes the princess's hand with sudden intensity.
Roseanne demands he stop treating her like a fragile child with small, delicate hands.
The princess decides they will ride the rowboat after all, surprising her companion.
The Grand Duke is visibly flustered as the blonde lady leads him toward the dock.
Roseanne asks the boatman to borrow a boat while the man prepares to row. In chibi form, Roseanne plans to use this boat ride to trap and interrogate him.
The Grand Duke pays the worker, reassuring Roseanne that he can row the boat himself.
A heavy thud sounds as the dark-haired man steps onto the wooden floor of the boat.
Roseanne looks at the blue flowers, wondering if he can truly be believed this car.
The dark-haired man helps the princess into the small boat with a very serious gaze. Roseanne reflects on seeing things in their original color instead of being stained with blood.
A rhythmic splash sounds as the blonde lady gently grazes the water with her hand.
The Grand Duke asks if she is having fun while he expertly rows the boat.
Roseanne smiles radiantly, her genuine joy catching the dark-haired man completely off guard.
The princess thanks the Grand Duke as they glide peacefully across the shimmering lake. The dark-haired man confirms he knows how to row despite his high noble status.
Roseanne is curious why a man of his position would ever practice such manual labor.
A sudden pop sounds as the Grand Duke opens a parasol to shade the princess.
The blonde lady notes his casual way of speaking about the emperor without formal titles.
The man warns her that people shouldn't speak so freely even if no one is listening. In chibi form, the pair argue over the necessity of adding formal titles to the emperor.
The Grand Duke wonders if this arrangement is only benefiting him and his internal madness.
Roseanne ponders his words while holding the white parasol over her shoulder in the sunlight.
The blonde lady expresses her deep hatred for how the emperor uses her family.
Shaded by the parasol, Roseanne wonders how the emperor would feel about her new alliance. Surrounded by bright flowers, Roseanne imagines the emperor's frustration with a sense of malicious glee. A small smile touches the princess's lips as she enjoys the thought of her revenge.
The Grand Duke reflects on an old, haunting emotion of bottomless rage he cannot remember.
A soft tap sounds as the man worries about the Emperor abandoning House Rylatin.
Roseanne stares toward the shore with a cold, distant expression that the man cannot read. The dark-haired man silently vows never to let her go, regardless of her personal discomfort.
Roseanne asks the Grand Duke to answer her questions about the history of the Empire.
The blonde lady inquires about the dragon subjugation party that took place 10 years ago.
A sharp gasp sounds as the man recalls a terrifying event that destroyed his party.
A loud boom sounds as a magical projectile suddenly tears through the boat's parasol.
Roseanne remains calm while the Grand Duke thanks her for helping him avoid a disaster.
The man realizes he missed the assassin's killing intent because of their deep conversation.
A soft rustle sounds as the Grand Duke protectively grabs the princess's lace-covered arm.
The dark-haired man pulls Roseanne close as multiple boats of assassins surround him.
The Grand Duke tells the princess she has lived too long away from the blood. A wet squelch sounds as the Grand Duke strikes down an assassin in a blur.
The man worries that today might be the last day for their peaceful boat ride.
Roseanne looks down at her necklace, contemplating the dark turn their romantic outing has taken.
An oppressive web of dark energy surrounds the princess as she prepares to use her power.
A soft sounds as Roseanne snaps the man out of his daze with a touch.
The Grand Duke is lost in thought as Roseanne watches him with a concerned gaze.
A sharp whap sounds as the man's apology is interrupted by a sudden, violent movement.
A large question mark appears as the sudden impact creates a chaotic blur of action.
The Grand Duke defends their small boat against an unseen threat in a whirlwind of motion. Roseanne leans against the dark-haired man, claiming the boat's rockin' caused her to fall. The princess reflects on her own actions while looking at a small hole in her parasol.
The Grand Duke warns that assassins have arrived, likely drawn by his presence on the lake.
The man explains that such attacks are routine and he is always prepared for danger.
Warning that being with him is dangerous, he asks the princess if the situation is urgent.
A soft tap sounds as the Grand Duke holds the princess in a dramatic, protective pose.
Blushing deeply, the dark-haired man is surprised that Roseanne doesn't seem terrified by the situation.
Roseanne feigns a delicate fear, clasping her hands and claiming she will trust his protection.
The man promises to handle the threat alone, urging the blonde lady to remain safe.
A wet squelch sounds as the Grand Duke brutally cuts through an assassin with lethal precision.
Roseanne observes the thick bloodlust on his sword, noting a faint sense of disturbing pleasure.
The princess recognizes the mad dragon within him, surviving despite the Emperor's many assassination attempts.
Roseanne considers if she must intervene to keep the man from going completely berserk.
A sudden shh sounds as a hidden assassin threatens to kill the lady if she screams.
The assassin holds Roseanne hostage, demanding she put down her weapon and follow orders.
The princess glares coldly, thinking that the attackers made a foolish choice in targeting her. The scene pauses briefly as the weight of the impending counterattack hangs in the air. Roseanne's eyes glow with intensity as she warns that a stupid choice has been made. The assassin's grip tightens while the princess prepares to unleash her own hidden lethal power. A sudden, loud boom sounds as an unseen force or impact shocks the attacking assassin. In a flash of movement, Roseanne strikes back at her copter with her own deadly intent.
The blonde lady coldly tells the dying man to be quiet as his life fades.
A soft drip sounds as Roseanne holds a bloody hairpin, her expression remaining chillingly calm. A sharp splash sounds as the assassin's body is unceremoniously dumped into the shimmering lake. Shrouded in the aftermath, the princess stands alone with a distant and unreadable expression.
A rhythmic splash sounds as Roseanne decides to discard her bloody parasol and ruined hairpin.
The princess gazes toward the shore, her calm face betraying no sign of the recent struggle.
A rhythmic top sounds as the Grand Duke's boots strike the wooden floor of the boat.
Covered in blood, the dark-haired man urgently checks to see if the princess is unhurt.
Roseanne lies effortlessly, claiming the noise was simply the sound of her dropping her parasol.
The princess suggests an attacker fled in fear after seeing the Grand Duke's formidable presence.
The man concludes they targeted the lady before fleeing and wonders if they should pursue.
The Grand Duke insists that the lady's well-being is his only priority for the moment. Gliding back toward the shore, the pair decide to return to the safety of the mansion.
Near their carriage, Roseanne's request for a walk is gently denied by the concerned Duke.
The man worries that despite her lack of injuries, the princess must be deeply shaken. Roseanne reflects on how her own family never showed her such genuine care or worry. Anger flares within the blonde lady as she recalls being ordered to fight even while wounded. The Grand Duke watches the princess with a steady, watchful gaze as they travel together. Sitting close in the carriage, Roseanne maintains that she is perfectly fine and not traumatized. The princess argues that the Duke shouldn't blame himself for the incident on the lake.
Roseanne places the blame squarely on the Emperor for constantly sending assassins after her companion.
The dark-haired man listens in silence, his expression softening as she speaks so bluntly.
The Grand Duke reflects on how others usually ignore his plight out of fear or indifference.
Roseanne asserts her right to know the truth since she is responsible for his healing.
The pair acknowledge the immense risk involved in speaking so freely about the Empire's ruler. The dark-haired man warns the princess to forget his words for her safety.
A soft top sounds as Roseanne nods, acknowledging the weight of his dangerous secrets.
Flashback panels reveal the man's past joining a doomed dragon subjugation squad long ago.
A young boy looks up with wide, innocent eyes during the grim wartime recollection.
The Emperor introduced a legendary hero whose presence inspired profound awe in every soldier. The red-haired hero stands majestically, her radiant appearance making her look like an angel.
Roseanne questions how he could recognize the hero without ever seeing her face before. The man explains that the hero's summons is bound exclusively to the Imperial bloodline.
Flashback, a rhythmic thump sounds as the young boy feels an inexplicable, magical connection.
The dark-haired man reflects on the shared nature of their inseparable, unique royal blood.
In chibi form, Roseanne recalls her past habit of openly defying the Emperor's authority.
The man notes his caution while Roseanne wonders if she is truly safe now.
Roseanne inquires if only the Emperor possesses the exclusive power to summon the hero.
A vision of the Imperial throne appears as they discuss the stolen sealing vessel.
Roseanne's eyes widen as she realizes breaking her seal requires the Emperor's direct involvement. A silhouette of an Emperor looms while the man clarifies the requirements for summoning.
A soft tap sounds as Roseanne rubs her head, processing the complex new information.
Flashback panels show the red-haired hero performing incredible feats while cutting down countless monsters.
A glowing sword marks the site where the hero successfully sealed the Wrath Dragon.
After the victory, the hero vanished without a trace once her goal was achieved. Imperial Knights suddenly ambush the party on their return, causing a horrific, bloody massacre. A sharp whap sounds as Roseanne clenches her skirt, furious at the Imperial betrayal.
Roseanne's eyes glow blue with cold intensity as she processes the man's tragic story.
The man explains the Emperor used the hero as a mere symbol for prestige.
He admits his descent into madness was caused by a hasty attempt at liberation.
A carriage approaches a sunny town as he explains his plan for an official return. Roseanne looks shocked while the man confirms his survival against all possible odds.
Surrounded by flowers, the dark-haired man smiles softly, asking if her questions are answered.
Night falls over the mansion as Roseanne stands alone in her dark, moonlit room.
Roseanne is burdened by the realization that her past actions led to many deaths.
A loud crash sounds as the princess punches a mirror in a fit of despair.
Looking at the shards, Roseanne mourns the suffering of the people she left behind.
The blonde lady stands weeping in the dark, overwhelmed by grief and survivor's guilt.
A quick tap sounds as a hand knocks urgently on the princess's bedroom door.
Henry calls out from the hallway, worried after hearing the sound of breaking glass.
A rhythmic bang sounds as the gray-haired man counts down before forcing the door.
Henry bursts into the room, his face pale with concern for the princess's safety.
A soft drip sounds as blood falls from Roseanne's hand onto the dark floor.
The servant gazes at the blood-splattered, shattered mirror in absolute shock and horror.
Roseanne turns coldly toward her servant, ready to discuss his report despite her condition.
Henry suddenly sweeps the princess off her feet, carrying her in a protective embrace.
In chibi form, Roseanne demands to be released while Henry ignores her angry protests. A soft rustle sounds as the man adjusts his hold on the injured lady.
Henry hands the princess a cloth, insisting they stop the bleeding before the doctor.
Roseanne watches with confusion as the man walks away to grab a decorative lamp. A loud smash sounds as Henry deliberately throws the blue lamp onto the floor. A sharp crash sounds as the ceramic lantern shatters into countless jagged fragments.
A quick top sounds as the servant claps his hands clean of the debris.
Henry calmly tells the lady to blame her injury on an outburst of anger.
In chibi form, the pair argue over the necessity of his elaborate cover story.
Henry observes that noble ladies don't typically punch mirrors in a fit of rage.
He suggests a cover story involving her getting angry and breaking a lamp. The gray-haired man asks with a smirk if the princess agrees to the plan.
Roseanne nods in agreement, her hand wrapped in a light blue cloth.
Henry promises to report the incident and then summon a doctor for her. The report begins with a mention of Gary, a spy sent from the magic tower. Henry confirms the spy is dead, leading Roseanne to ask if he took his life.
Henry describes the interrogation, noting that everything changed the moment the man spoke.
Splattered with blood, Henry explains the prisoner suddenly exploded before revealing anything.
A dark memory reveals the bloody aftermath of the prisoner's sudden, violent end.
Roseanne realizes the magic tower rigged the spy to die the moment he talked. They discuss how thoroughly the enemy prepared to prevent any information from leaking.
The pair goes over the details of their fabricated story about the Bergamag.
Roseanne questions why her hand would be hurt if she threw the lamp from bed.
Henry reacts with wide-eyed shock as the princess points out the flaw in his lie.
The servant panics, begging the princess to stop her reckless line of questioning.
A sharp vish sounds as Roseanne crushes a glass shard to make the injury real.
In chibi form, Henry scolds the princess for actually hurting herself for a lie.
Henry insists on cleaning up the glass himself to prevent her from getting hurt again.
The servant warns the princess not to harm herself whenever she is feeling upset.
Henry promises to set up a safe place for her to release her anger. Chibi Henry rushes off to find a doctor, telling Roseanne not to move.
Roseanne realizes that noble medical attention can draw unwanted and dangerous curiosity.
Shrouded in blue roses, the princess is pleased to have such a dedicated servant.
Looking at the broken glass, she notes that Henry tends to worry about her unnecessarily.
A dark flashback recalls the grim report of the total annihilation of the subjugation team.
Funerals were held with empty coffins before Chaitton left the capital for his territory. Rain falls as a young man with red eyes gazes out with deep sorrow.
Fellow survivors greeted Chaitton upon his return, eventually forming the elite Black Knights.
The group of knights pledged their loyalty to remain by Chaitton's side.
A majestic silver crest stands as a symbol of the Duke's formidable lineage.
Sir Pavel asks the Duke if he is listening, pulling him from his deep thoughts.
Chaitton admits his mind wandered for a moment while sitting in his private office.
The silver-haired man mentions a lady's nasty behavior, but Chaitton dismisses it.
Sir Pavel is puzzled by his commander's distraction, wondering what is on his mind.
Chaitton wonders to himself if the captain is doing well during his absence.
Sir Pavel asks if anything was wrong today, noting the Duke's unusual behavior. The black-haired man stands, feeling unsettled by his long-awaited return to the capital.
Chaitton tells his subordinate he may leave if there are no more reports.
He wishes Sir Pavel a good night's sleep, free from any haunting nightmares.
Alone, Chaitton gazes through the window, wondering if the blonde lady is sleeping peacefully.
He reflects on Roseanne's lack of fear and his own decision to share his past.
Chaitton rubs his head, confused as to why he went into such great detail. The Duke realizes that his plans never go as expected whenever Roseanne is involved.
Looking out into the night, the man sighs as he thinks of the princess.
Narrated text explains that Henry's quick actions mask the true cause of the broken mirror. Rumors began to spread throughout the mansion that the lady's personality had significantly worsened.
Even the capable Henry cannot prevent the princess from her calm, casual routine.
Duke Lilaton screams in a rage, demanding to know why Roseanne is ignoring him.
The brown-haired man complains about being summoned by the Emperor at dawn because of her.
Letters from the Emperor's faction and ridiculous fan mail overwhelm the stressed brown-haired Duke Lilaton. Duke Lilaton shouts about the boat ride rumors while Roseanne winces at his piercing volume.
A sharp "ah" sounds as the blonde lady suddenly raises her bandaged hand in feigned agony.
Roseanne fakes a ringing in her ears to silence the Duke, who remains skeptical of her act.
In chibi form, Roseanne offers a nonsensical explanation about ear vibrations that leaves the Duke completely baffled.
The Duke storms off in annoyance while Roseanne celebrates the success of her clever medical distraction.
Roseanne sits in the sunny garden, sipping her tea with an air of refined, quiet grace.
Flashback panels recall the painful memories of past ridicule that once sent the young lady home weeping.
Realizing today will be no different, Roseanne decides that being ignored is actually a welcome change.
Surrounding ladies whisper behind her back while Roseanne calmly drinks her tea, ignoring the buzzing social flies.
A pink-haired lady glares intensely toward Roseanne, her hostile gaze making the blonde lady feel unsettled.
Roseanne remembers that Lady Portland lost a duel and was forced to give out expensive compensatory gifts.
A close-up reveals Roseanne's sparkling blue eye as she watches the approaching group of noble ladies.
The pink-haired lady leads her companions toward Roseanne's table, her intentions clearly focused on the blonde lady.
Lady Portland puts on a bright smile while Roseanne prepares herself for an annoying social encounter.
Realizing the group is targeting her, Roseanne watches as the pink-haired lady reaches for the table.
Roseanne finds Lady Portland's consideration surprisingly nice, but still finds the woman's presence incredibly annoying. Knowing the pink-haired lady won't take no for an answer, Roseanne prepares to endure her company.
The blonde lady offers a seat, prompting Lady Portland to thank her with a polite, artificial smile.
Narrative text notes the approach of the imperial ball season amidst the garden's shimmering, sunlit fountain.
Tea pours smoothly into a cup as the ladies discuss their lavish preparations for the upcoming season.
The four ladies sit together at the garden table, surrounded by an atmosphere of superficial noble chatter. Lady Portland brags about her father's exclusive reservations, claiming she is destined for high-status elegance.
A companion asks if she'll be the future empress, causing the pink-haired lady to laugh with delight. The ladies agree on her high status, while Roseanne remains silent, focused on her own thoughts.
Lady Portland feigns humility about her prospects, prompting her companions to shower her with more shallow praise.
Lady Portland secretly mocks Roseanne, believing the blonde lady is merely pretending to have changed her personality.
Glowing text describes the contrast between being naturally popular and being unable to speak without permission.
Roseanne reflects on her place in the world while eating cake, detached from the lady's empty conversation.
Lady Portland suddenly addresses Roseanne, asking for her opinion on their topic of discussion.
Roseanne blinks in confusion, her fork still in her mouth as she processes the unexpected question.
In chibi form, Roseanne bluntly admits she wasn't listening, shocking the offended pink-haired lady.
Lady Portland is insulted by the rudeness and explains they were discussing the Stars of the Sky title.
The other ladies enthusiastically agree that Lady Portland is the clear favorite to claim the title again.
A heavy silence falls as Roseanne thinks bitterly about the ridiculous nature of that specific title.
Roseanne rubs her forehead, overwhelmed by guilt for ever coming up with such a silly name. In chibi form, Lady Portland glares with a dark, trembling rage at the blonde lady's dismissive attitude.
The pink-haired lady demands an explanation for the insult, her face flushing with intense indignation.
A loud quang sounds as Lady Portland slams the table, furious that Roseanne finds the title funny.
Lady Portland stands up and challenges Roseanne to compete for the prestigious title this year.
Roseanne asks if the pink-haired lady is a gambling addict, provoking a scream of outrage from her.
Lady Portland insists this duel will be a direct competition between the two of them alone. The pink-haired lady describes the title as a way to prove who the most graceful lady is.
Roseanne looks thoughtful, considering the implications of the sudden and public social challenge.
Narrative text explains that winning the title would silence the doubts of the Magic Tower and Empire.
A vision appears of Roseanne being crowned as the most beautiful lady before a cheering royal crowd.
Roseanne calmly accepts the challenge, leaving the pink-haired lady wide-eyed and sputtering in total shock.
Lady Portland offers to forget the challenge if Roseanne apologizes, assuming the blonde lady is just being prideful.
A sharp whick sounds as the pink-haired lady shouts in disbelief at Roseanne's unwavering commitment.
Looking up with cold determination, Roseanne firmly repeats her desire to compete against the stunned noble lady.
Roseanne's eyes glow with an intense blue that unnerves the watching Lady Portland.
Narrative text recalls her eyes used to be a soft, vulnerable, tearful blue. Staring into her eyes now feels like falling into a deep, bottomless lake.
Lady Portland trembles in disbelief, unable to understand why Roseanne's presence feels so overwhelming.
Finished with her tea, Roseanne casually stands and announces her departure from the group.
A sudden commotion catches Roseanne's attention, prompting her to slip away quietly.
Roseanne stops in surprise as she is suddenly addressed by an unexpected guest.
The Crown Prince places a hand on Lady Portland's shoulder, much to her shock. Lady Portland blinks in confusion as the royal visitor makes his presence known.
Roses frame a decorative mirror as a voice calls out for Lady Lilaton.
The Crown Prince stands tall in his ornate white uniform, looking around the garden.
Lady Portland looks up at the prince, her initial shock turning into polite confusion.
The royal inquiry for the blonde lady's location echoes through the floral garden.
Lady Portland asks why the prince is looking for the supposedly disgraced blonde lady.
Laughing nervously, Lady Portland mentions Roseanne's absurd challenge for the prestigious star title.
The Crown Prince smiles at the news, finding the situation deeply and genuinely intriguing.
Noting that Roseanne never disappoints, the prince walks toward her as she leaves.
Facing the prince, Roseanne bluntly asks why he is looking for her today.
The prince admits he is looking forward to their upcoming competition with great interest.
In chibi form, Roseanne is baffled by his dramatic claim that her challenge is an honor. Nearby ladies whisper, questioning if the prince is truly rooting for the unconventional Roseanne.
Roseanne flatly rejects whatever the prince is offering, surprising the crowd with her rudeness.
The socialites panic, wondering if Roseanne's insolence will lead to a royal execution.
A quiet chk sounds as Roseanne remains unimpressed by the prince's persistent behavior.
To everyone's shock, the Crown Prince erupts in laughter at Roseanne's bold defiance.
The tan-haired man smiles broadly, praising the blonde lady's rare and refreshing confidence.
The prince demands applause for her boldness, while Roseanne wonders about his hidden agenda.
A dark presence looms as Chaitton warns her not to get involved with the prince. Chaitton mentions the rumors of their boat ride, questioning her decision to ignore him.
A sharp chuck sounds as Roseanne asks why anyone would bother coming all this way.
The prince holds her hand, claiming he is giving her one last chance to comply.
Visualizing the political ties, the prince notes the Lilaton house must remain loyal.
Roseanne realizes the prince is likely trying to quell rumors regarding her and Chaitton.
Thinking she has figured him out, Roseanne offers a sharp, knowing smile to the prince.
A sharp kung sounds as the prince's heart suddenly races in response to her.
A dark memory of his father's murderous gaze flashes through the prince's mind.
The prince tries to rationalize his reaction, telling himself she looks too fragile to be dangerous.
Roseanne radiates a brilliant aura, leaving the prince blushing and completely speechless.
The blonde lady turns to leave, leaving the confused prince sputtering in her wake.
A firm chock sounds as the prince reaches out to stop her from leaving. Roseanne's intense gaze startles the prince as she suddenly pulls him close to her.
A collective gasp of "hup" rises as Roseanne pulls the prince into a close embrace.
Time stands still as their faces meet, the prince's heart thundering against his chest. Realizing she acted on instinct, Roseanne's expression turns into one of deep regret and disgust. A loud pack sounds as Roseanne roughly shoves the prince away for touching her.
Telling him not to follow, Roseanne storms off while Chaitton arrives, sensing he's too late.
A heavy jubuk sounds as the brown-haired Duke Laylaton marches into the tea party.
Surprised, Roseanne asks how he arrived, and her brother admits he heard the news.
Duke Laylaton smiles playfully, though Roseanne finds his sudden appearance to be incredibly suspicious.
Looking at his rival, the Duke notes that someone else clearly beat him to her side.
Roseanne looks visibly annoyed while the tan-haired crown prince smiles brightly behind her.
Chaitton watches Roseanne leave, his face darkening with a mixture of frustration and worry.
Nearby socialites gossip about a potential duel between the crown prince and Chaitton.
Roseanne sternly tells both men to take their petty arguments away from the party. Walking away, Roseanne ignores the prince while Chaitton follows closely behind her. Roseanne demands Chaitton stop following her, but he insists their argument is already over.
Suspicious of his motives, Roseanne questions if Chaitton intentionally provoked the crown prince.
Blushing deeply, Chaitton takes Roseanne's hand and promises to uphold his word to her.
The prince offers his carriage, but Chaitton scoffs that his own horses are far superior.
The crown prince dismisses the horses, bragging about the cloud-like comfort of his imperial seats.
A low grr sounds as Chaitton fumes while the prince offers his own lap as a seat. Narrative text notes that Chaitton's strong sword-swinging thighs definitely won that ridiculous argument.
Peace returns to the garden as the ladies marvel at Roseanne's new, commanding presence.
Watching from afar, the noble ladies agree that the blonde lady feels like a different person. Two ladies giggle with excitement, admiring how Roseanne handled both the prince and the duke. Trembling with pure rage, Brina Portland bites her handkerchief and vows her hatred for Roseanne. Back home, the mustachioed Duke Laylaton scolds Roseanne for causing such a public scene.
Her father complains that the old rumors were finally erased, only to be replaced by new ones.
Roseanne nonchalantly shrugs off the criticism while her father panics over her social blunders.
In chibi form, Roseanne mocks Brina Portland's beauty title while her father argues in disbelief.
The mustachioed Duke warns Roseanne that she has no chance of becoming the crown princess.
Narrative text explains that the selection process is merely a formality for a predetermined choice.
Resting her hands on the table, Roseanne asks her father about the star title's details.
A loud chock sounds as Roseanne slams her head down while her father laughs at her.
Feeling doomed, Roseanne remains face down while her father frantically calls for a palace physician.
The Duke peels a hard-boiled egg, relieved that Roseanne finally stopped hurting herself.
Holding an egg, her father asks if she has finally regained her common sense. Roseanne uses an egg to soothe her forehead while her father teases her foggy mind. Duke Laylaton tells her to move forward and focus on preparing for the upcoming season. The father tasks at his daughter as she continues to ice her red, bruised forehead. In chibi form, the Duke promises not to steal her food as Roseanne eats. A series of soft tap-tap sounds as the Duke claps and tells her to rest. Roseanne watches her father leave, confused by his sudden and inexplicable change in mood.
Narrative text notes the high-status men following Roseanne as a hand grips a golden staff.
Duke Laylaton laughs with pride, realizing his daughter is the center of imperial attention.
Glimmering floral patterns and golden frames shift the scene to a more somber setting. Walking down the hall, the Duke resolves to find the best dressmaker for his daughter. The mustachioed Duke vows to ensure Roseanne stands tall with pride at the imperial ball.
Dark, abstract panels and butterfly outlines transition the story into a deeper, more mysterious atmosphere.
A grand chandelier with flickering candles illuminates a dark, oppressive room within the palace. Gloomy text describes the emperor's sleepless nights, haunted by the fear of unseen enemies. The disheveled, bearded emperor lies in bed, unable to escape the feeling of being watched.
Red, bloodshot eyes surround the emperor in the darkness as his fleeting peace fades away.
A series of knock-knock sounds as Jarrell announces his arrival to the weary emperor.
A rhythmic thud sounds as the robed visitor walks toward the emperor's royal bed. Jarrell approaches the bed, reporting an urgent discovery to the emperor and his companion.
The white-haired Jarrell smirks with cold eyes, announcing he has devised a brilliant plan.
Sitting up in bed, the bearded emperor asks Jarrell to explain his new scheme.
The emperor orders his companion to leave so he can discuss the secret plan privately.
A hand firmly grips the hilt of a rusted and ancient sword, radiating a mysterious power.
The bearded emperor listens to Jarrell's report, feeling almost sober again from the news.
A close-up shows the Emperor's hands gripping the ancient sword, demanding a foolproof method. Jarrell confidently assures the Emperor that his plan is guaranteed to succeed as he listens. The scene shifts to the ornate palace interior as Jarrell mentions the upcoming Imperial Ball. Narrative text explains that the hero remains hidden while a magic circle binds the ancient sword. A portrait of a red-haired individual is obscured by chains, symbolizing the binding magic's restriction. The Emperor notes the difficulty of searching the large capital if the hero escapes their magic. An invitation is above a crowded ballroom where Roseanne stands out with a glow.
Jarrell's cold eyes narrow as he explains how the bomb will force suspects to react. The palace architecture frames a discussion about using the event to trap even commoner suspects.
A sinister Keihei sounds as the Emperor laughs darkly while Jarrell watches him silently.
A manic ha-ha-ha erupts from the Emperor, filled with malicious glee over the potential trap.
The patterns shift as the Emperor's dark joy spreads through the cold, oppressive chamber. Chuckling to himself, the Emperor pours wine while thinking about the delicious chaos to come. The Emperor calls Jarrell's name, and the robed man bows, ready to serve his majesty. A tense close-up focuses on a hand as the Emperor asks if Jarrell can be trusted. Wine pours into a glass, reflecting a red-haired woman as Jarrell vows to capture her.
A sharp chwok sounds as Henry and River dramatically unroll a massive scroll in the garden.
Henry rolls the scroll back up, explaining that he only used it to look cool.
River explains they compiled a list of dressmakers, making the overwhelming choices easier to review.
A close-up of Roseanne's face reveals her boredom as she declares the task entirely useless. Roseanne nonchalantly flips through the list, deciding she will simply skip the Imperial Ball.
Resting her chin on her hand, Roseanne closes her eyes, determined to ignore the event.
River panics, warning her lady that skipping the ball would be an absolute social disaster. Roseanne dismisses the concern, teasing River about getting too invested in bets like Lady Portland. River leans in, explaining that the disaster isn't about a bet, but a royal decree. Roseanne looks confused as she learns the Emperor has ordered every invited guest to attend. A chill runs down Roseanne's spine as she reads the mandatory attendance letter's dark warnings. Roseanne trembles, realizing that missing the ball means a terrifying private audience with the Emperor.
Roseanne imagines a worst-case scenario where the Emperor immediately identifies and seals her as the hero. Deciding she must go, Roseanne resolves to keep a low profile among the gathered nobles.
River and Henry worry about their lady's dress, noting that all popular places are booked.
Fired up, River and Henry promise to stay up for days to secure the best collections.
A heavy kung sounds as Roseanne slams her hands down, questioning if her staff has gone crazy.
Roseanne vows not to forgive them if they overcomplicate things, demanding the least popular artisans.
In chibi form, Henry and River feel slighted that Roseanne doesn't trust their reservation abilities. The mustachio Duke Leilaton arrives in the garden, questioning Roseanne about her dressmaker reservation.
A firm chak sounds as the Duke slams his reservation book, pleased she hasn't started yet.
The Duke presents 3 reservation plates for the most prestigious and exclusive ateliers in the Empire.
Looking incredibly smug, the Duke beams with pride over his successful and high-level social planning.
Roseanne stares at her father in disbelief while he waits for her to choose an atelier. River and Henry giggle as the Duke asks Roseanne to pick her favorite shop fairly.
A swift quick sounds as the Duke abruptly turns and leaves the garden after speaking.
Roseanne remains silent and stunned, processing her father's unexpected and overwhelming level of imperial influence. Henry and River explain that the choices are about the most elite ateliers in the capital.
River excitedly describes Neria Atelier, the top-tier destination exclusively reserved for the royal family.
The blonde Crown Prince Joseph poses majestically, representing the peak of royal splendor and elegance.
Henry presents Aolo, a promising atelier led by a young designer favored by the Duke. The dark-haired Chaitton stands tall, embodying the sophisticated skill and prestige of the Odria Atelier. River gushes as the 2 ateliers, like the 2 powerful men, compete for Roseanne's favor.
River praises Roseanne's deep heart while the blonde lady questions the shop's relevance to her.
The brown-haired maid insists it's something else, leaving Roseanne looking quite skeptical.
Roseanne dismisses the nonsense, ordering River to book the chosen atelier for the next day. Examining a shimmering earring, Roseanne ignores the maid's confusion while a chibi River agrees.
After Roseanne threatens to replace her, River rushes off to complete the urgent reservation task.
Henry confirms he understands the instructions as Roseanne prepares to leave the garden.
The staff watches as the blonde noblewoman walks away, her presence feeling more imposing.
Henry suggests they get moving, leading the way for River to follow him out.
River complains about Roseanne's strange logic despite the massive struggle others face for reservations.
Looking calm, Henry turns back toward the frustrated maid as they walk through the flowers.
Henry explains that Roseanne's request for old collections was a sophisticated test of his intuition. Shifting to a magical backdrop, Henry realizes old actually meant rare royal heirlooms from fallen kingdoms.
Henry gives a thumbs up, impressing River with his deep understanding of their lady's true, refined tastes.
A sparkle sounds as Henry poses majestically, proud to have successfully deciphered Roseanne's cryptic test.
River cheers with pure excitement, promising to put her whole heart into the upcoming preparations.
Shimmering light emanates from a delicate, flowery ornament held between two hands in a close-up.
River wonders if it is truly okay to accept such a beautiful gift after failing.
Roseanne and River arrive at the Shulio atelier, which appears dusty and hidden behind cobwebs.
Inside, a blonde man is busy sorting through colorful fabrics until he notices his unexpected visitors.
A sharp eek sounds as Shulio recoils in total shock at the sight of a customer. Surprised by the sudden arrival, Shulio realizes the prestigious Lady Laylaton is standing in his shop.
Roseanne mentions her reservation, prompting Shulio to frantically invite her inside for a formal meeting. Bowing deeply, Shulio introduces himself as the designer, honored to host such a high-status noblewoman.
Shulio nervously offers to prepare some tea while Roseanne and River wait in the dusty room.
A soft clink sounds as Shulio serves tea in elegant blue-patterned porcelain cups to his guests.
Roseanne places her order for a gown to be worn at the upcoming imperial ball.
Blushing with intense anxiety, Shulio confesses he has never designed a ball dress in his life.
Roseanne offers him his professional debut, while River hands over a large, heavy bag of currency.
A heavy thud sounds as Roseanne slams a pouch of gold coins onto the wooden table.
Lounging in the chair, Roseanne watches the designer with a bored but remarkably confident expression. Roseanne gives Shulio complete creative freedom, instructing him to make the dress as roughly as possible.
Shulio stares at the mountain of gold coins, stunned by the lady's overwhelming and unexpected generosity.
Gasping in disbelief, Shulio feels a surge of inspiration and pressure from the massive payment.
River proudly explains that Roseanne rejected every famous atelier just to come to this small shop.
River claims Roseanne intends to become the star of the sky, leaving Shulio and River bewildered.
Roseanne nonchalantly tells him to ignore the maid and just make the dress as he usually would.
Shulio gazes at the lady with sparkling eyes, feeling as though he has met a true patron.
The atelier's racks are shown filled with well-tailored suits, hinting at the designer's hidden, masterful talent.
As the carriage rattles home, Roseanne reflects on how easily she tires in her new life. In chibi form, River and Shulio vow to make Roseanne the absolute star of the season.
River yawns, noting that the intensity of the meeting left even the young designer completely drained.
Roseanne smiles softly, remembering a past life of constant battle where fatigue was an unknown concept. A sudden thud sounds as the carriage stops, and Roseanne looks out at the sunset sky.
Standing by the garden gate, the dark-haired Chaitton waits with a somber and brooding expression.
Chaitton approaches the carriage, informing Roseanne that he has been waiting specifically for her return home.
Looking slightly flustered, Chaitton mentions the atelier he reserved, wondering why she chose a different one.
Roseanne observes his pale, troubled face, suspecting his madness might be resurfacing in the evening light.
A blush creeps onto Chaitton's cheeks as he nervously runs a hand through his dark hair.
Roseanne gazes at the glowing horizon, wondering what the man truly seeks from her this time.
Chaitton looks down with a gentle, blushing smile, asking if his efforts were actually what she needed.
Chaitton stammers, his face flushing deep red as he gazes intensely at Roseanne. Holding her close under the sunset sky, Chaitton softly asks if he fulfilled her needs.
Roseanne's blue eyes sparkle with clarity as she confirms his efforts were exactly right.
A gentle, content smile touches Chaitton's lips while Roseanne tenderly cradles his face.
Roseanne evaluates the effectiveness of their physical contact against the backdrop of a vibrant sunset.
A soft sigh escapes Chaitton as he pulls away, prompting Roseanne's quick, firm reassurance. Roseanne directs River to prepare tea and take the carriage ahead without them.
Interlocking their fingers with a firm grip, Roseanne insists on staying close despite any hesitation.
A flustered chibi Chaitton wonders about the deeper meaning behind their tightly intertwined hands.
They walk together as Roseanne notes that this closeness far exceeds simple handholding.
Observers from afar watch the pair walk, completely bewildered by their choice to travel on foot.
A firm squeeze joins their hands as onlookers recall seeing them depart the carriage earlier.
Seated in the parlor, Roseanne casually mentions her recent trip to the dress shop.
Chaitton mutters under his shadowed breath, his expression darkening at the mention of her destination.
While Roseanne sips her tea, Chaitton reflects on her puzzling choice of a failing atelier.
Chaitton questions why she ignored his prestigious reservation in favor of a different shop. The competitive social landscape looms, where specific dress shops determine one's status and influence.
Chains and gold coins symbolize the massive wealth and high stakes involved in royal preparations.
Chaitton recalls Roseanne's intense sensitivity regarding money and her complicated relationship with the Duke.
Roseanne focuses on her snack, seemingly indifferent to the social weight of her decisions.
Roseanne sharply acknowledges the importance of cost when Chaitton offers to pay for everything.
Roseanne argues that family funds shouldn't be wasted, maintaining her independent stance on finances.
Detecting a hint of embarrassment in Chaitton, Roseanne watches him with a calculating gaze.
Chaitton's gaze turns intense as he demands to know who else made reservations for her.
Roseanne lists the Duke and the Crown Prince as those vying for her attention.
Shadows dance in Chaitton's red eyes as a dark memory of a past tea party resurfaces.
Chaitton reflects on his rivalry with Joseph, whose gaze toward the princess felt dangerously possessive. Overwhelmed by complex emotions of worship and desire, Chaitton's reflection in Roseanne's eyes burns bright.
Dark blue roses bloom as Chaitton considers his own malicious motivations regarding the lady.
Roseanne looks back with suspicion while Chaitton looms over her with an unreadable expression.
Chaitton admits his rare sympathy for Joseph, though Roseanne remains skeptical of his true intent.
Beneath a grand chandelier, Roseanne explains she simply followed her own spontaneous path.
A gentle tap sounds as Roseanne pats Chaitton's head, leaving him momentarily dazed.
Surrounded by sparkles, Chaitton softly agrees to her touch, his earlier intensity fading.
Roseanne is pictured taming a massive black wolf, the only one capable of handling the monster.
Chaitton declares that the season's glory belongs to Roseanne as she continues to pat him.
With their hands clasped, Chaitton suggests that no position is beyond Roseanne's reach.
Sunlight fills the room as Chaitton asks to be her partner for the upcoming banquet.
Taken aback, Roseanne listens as Chaitton urgently asks if she has already chosen a partner.
Clasping his hands in a desperate plea, Chaitton begs Roseanne to say she is still available.
Roseanne's eyes widen in surprise as she processes Chaitton's sudden and emotional request.
Roseanne admits that attending alone would only invite unwanted attention, subtly considering his proposal. Overjoyed by her response, Chaitton beams with a radiant, blushing smile.
The two sit together in the quiet luxury of the parlor, the atmosphere finally softening.
The scene shifts to the grand white towers of the palace under a bright sky.
Dressed in a teal gown, Roseanne listens as River comments on her surprisingly quick arrival.
Shalio bursts into the room with manic joy, declaring his latest creation a masterpiece.
The designer urges them not to waste time as they prepare to unveil the dress.
Shalio adjusts his spectacles with trembling hands, his face flushed with artistic passion.
River clasps her hands in prayer while Roseanne waits stoically to see the final result.
Shalio presents his 3 newest gown designs, including the controversial woman draped in the Milky Way.
Detailed notes explain the philosophical themes of fundamental beauty and freedom behind the first dresses.
The eccentric designer describes how celestial lightning inspired him to create a gown for the princess.
A close-up reveals the shimmering, pearl-encrusted galaxy pattern of the dress's uniquely layered skirt.
Shalio clasps his hands nervously, awaiting Roseanne's final verdict on which masterpiece she prefers.
While Roseanne remains composed, River collapses in tears as the designer suggests trying on all 3.
Roseanne carefully analyzes the options, deciding to proceed with the unconventional Milky Way design.
River is visibly shaken by the choice, but Roseanne remains unbothered about the upcoming banquet. A sense of profound dread washes over River as she doubts her lady's fashion sense.
The scene shifts to the parlor doors where a secret fashion unveiling is about to occur.
Roseanne stands in the completed gown, which looks like a sparkling, chaotic disaster to her maid.
River's internal panic intensifies as she realizes this might be her lady's first true failure.
A dark, ominous aura surrounds the pair as River stares in horror at the avant-garde outfit.
Shalio is overcome with joy, declaring the dress a complete work of art on Roseanne.
River pleads for another option, but Roseanne surprisingly admits she genuinely likes the strange dress.
Roseanne demands absolute secrecy, insisting the design remain hidden until the day of the ball. Shalio enthusiastically vows silence while River clutches her head in a fit of absolute despair.
They exchange formal goodbyes, reinforcing the plan to keep the dress hidden from prying eyes.
A soft fwa sounds as Roseanne collapses onto her bed, completely exhausted by the day's events.
River continues to question the decision, desperate to move her lady to a more reputable atelier. In the parlor, River tries to corner Roseanne about her choice, but she is quickly dismissed.
Roseanne maintains her stance, arguing that a sudden change of heart would be shameful, regardless of the dress's appearance.
Roseanne secretly calculates that the strange outfit might actually scare the Emperor away from her.
A sharp tap sounds on the parlor door as a messenger arrives with unexpected news.
Henry enters the room with a triumphant smile, presenting a magnificent gold-embossed jewelry box.
Roseanne's bad feeling intensifies as she observes Henry's overly confident and satisfied expression.
Henry presents the red box with a flourish, eager to show off his latest acquisition. A blinding divine light bursts from the box as the rare treasures are finally revealed.
Roseanne stares in stunned silence, her eyes reflecting the overwhelming brilliance of the divine jewels.
River gasps with excitement as Henry explains how he obtained the ancient, legendary pieces.
Intricate floral earrings made of pure, shimmering crystals are shown in a stunning close-up.
The necklace of ancient blessings is described as a holy artifact once worn by a goddess.
Henry stands with exaggerated pride, fully believing he has fulfilled his lady's secret wishes.
While Henry praises her insight, Roseanne looks increasingly weary of his expensive, unauthorized initiative.
Roseanne's expression darkens as she realizes Henry likely spent a fortune on these ancient relics.
A vision of the future ball shows Roseanne drawing shocked and judgmental stares from onlookers. Roseanne touches her forehead, resigned to the social disaster that awaits her at the ball. The scene transitions to a different mansion where a pink-haired woman reacts in total shock.
A subordinate reports that they failed to interfere with Roseanne's choice of a hidden atelier.
Sipping her tea, the pink-haired lady dismisses the competition as a shabby, dying shop.
The servant's news about the designer being a genius causes her to lose her composure. Enraged, the pink-haired lady scolds her servant for failing to detect this hidden threat earlier.
A dark, intense memory of a past moment fills the pink-haired woman with vengeful determination.
A sinister command to steal the design echoes as the lady plots to sabotage her rival.
She orders her servant to steal the design and have it copied by a superior atelier.
The pink-haired woman plans a trip to provide herself with a perfect, unsuspecting alibi.
A sharp click sounds from her heels as she walks away, anticipating a victory at the ball.
A blue butterfly flutters in the garden, a peaceful contrast to the growing conspiracy.
Shulio bows deeply in the parlor, delivering alarming news that stops Roseanne in her tracks.
To Roseanne's utter disbelief, Shulio reveals that the dress design has completely vanished without a trace.
Shulio frantically offers to recreate the dress if he is given just a little more time.
Roseanne realizes the theft is actually a perfect opportunity to secure a more normal outfit.
Shulio blushes and scratches his head while Roseanne watches him with a skeptical, calculating expression.
In the parlor, Roseanne and River discuss the necessary preparations for a potentially leaked design.
Shulio is paralyzed with shock when Roseanne suddenly commands him to change the entire design.
While Shulio mourns his artistic vision, Roseanne maintains that changing the dress is the best choice.
Overwhelmed by emotion, Shulio praises Roseanne for being the first to understand his artistic world.
Roseanne simply nods, keeping her true intentions hidden beneath a calm and composed exterior.
Shulio reveals he attended the Royal Art Academy, leaving Roseanne absolutely stunned by his prestigious background.
Shulio admits he prefers to forget his academic success to keep his art free from labels. River is equally shocked to learn they are working with a graduate of the Empire's top school.
Shulio beams with pride, though his artistic intensity remains a lingering concern for the others.
Desperate for a normal outcome, River begs to help decide the general shape of the dress. Shulio reminds them that he was given full creative freedom over the new gown's design. River warns that an overly eccentric dress will fail to capture the Emperor's favorable attention. Discouraged, Shulio apologizes for his lack of experience regarding the formal requirements of ball gowns. Roseanne's conscience pricks her as she realizes she intentionally withheld information to sabotage the design.
Despite the underlying tension, Roseanne tells Shulio she looks forward to seeing his final creation.
River takes charge, strictly emphasizing the basic rules for sleeve lengths and skirt hems.
Time passes quickly as Shulio returns with the finished dress while Roseanne hands River earrings.
Shulio is brimming with confidence, leading Roseanne to believe the fashion crisis has finally passed.
A dark, heavy atmosphere takes over as the morning of the Imperial Ball finally arrives.
Roseanne stares in stunned silence as the final results of the dress theft are revealed.
The pink-haired woman is horrified as she stares at her reflection in the chaotic galaxy gown.
Trembling with rage, the lady realizes her plan to steal the design has backfired spectacularly.
The stolen design is a shimmering, over-the-top disaster that leaves the pink-haired woman in total despair.
Enraged, the lady screams at her designer for producing such a ridiculous and unwearable outfit.
The silver-haired designer calmly explains that he followed her stolen instructions to the letter.
In the grand room, the designer stands firm while the lady laments her terrible fashion choice.
The designer coldly threatens to stop accepting commissions from the Portland family if she continues complaining.
Sweating under the pressure, the pink-haired woman realizes she cannot afford to offend this prestigious atelier.
She demands another dress, only to learn that every other gown in the shop is sold. Tears well up in the lady's eyes as she faces the reality of her social disaster. The designer notes that the bizarre design is remarkably similar to the work of his junior. An oppressive aura fills the room as the designer demands to know where she got the design. The pink-haired woman freezes, unable to explain how she came into possession of the stolen sketches.
With a heavy sigh, the designer accepts that he cannot help her change the dress now.
The silver-haired man takes his leave, leaving the lady alone with her catastrophic fashion choice.
The scene shifts to the grand palace where noble guests arrive for the imperial ball. Onlookers whisper and point in shock at the pink-haired lady's avant-garde and ridiculous attire.
The lady seethes with resentment, desperately hoping Roseanne is wearing something even more embarrassing.
The sun shines over the magnificent white towers of the palace as the event begins.
A servant reports that the lady will be down soon, while a nervous man waits below.
Dressed in his finest uniform, Chaitton wonders why he feels so anxious about escorting her.
A sharp, elegant click sounds from the stairs as Roseanne finally makes her grand entrance.
Roseanne appears in a breathtaking white and gold gown, looking every bit the perfect princess.
Chaitton is completely mesmerized, his eyes shining with adoration as he looks up at her. As she descends the stairs, Roseanne asks with a soft smile if he has waited long.
Chaitton is speechless, his face flushing as he takes in her radiant and sophisticated beauty.
The two connect as Roseanne reaches the bottom, ready to face the ball together.
Roseanne and Chaitton stand close together in the grand hall, their hands joined as they prepare for the ball.
Chaitton watches Roseanne closely, wondering if she believes his earlier lapse in control was due to his inner madness.
In a small, cute panel, Chaitton bashfully tells Roseanne she doesn't need to keep holding his hand despite him enjoying the contact.
A series of sharp, elegant clicks sound as they walk forward, leaving Roseanne in a state of mild confusion.
Turning with a playful smirk, Roseanne jokingly suggests that he was simply mesmerized by her radiant beauty.
Chaitton blushes intensely at her comment, finding himself unable to look away from her confident and lovely expression.
Roseanne urges him to hold on tight, while Chaitton compares her captivating, knowing smile to that of a tempting demon.
The couple makes their grand entrance into the ballroom, stepping through the massive golden doors into a sea of light.
Whispers erupt throughout the room as the crowd reacts in shock to an unexpected and garish fashion choice.
From a distance, Roseanne spots Lady Portland wearing the disastrous, over-the-top galaxy dress that was originally stolen from the atelier.
Observing the lady's visible distress in the ridiculous outfit, Roseanne silently confirms that her rival was indeed the one who stole the design.
Roseanne approaches her rival, subtly taunting her about the artistic nature of the gown, while Lady Portland trembles in fury.
Confronting this seething woman, Roseanne proudly declares that her own elegant gown was a custom creation made specifically for her. Walking past the humiliated lady, Roseanne whispers a mocking word of thanks, acknowledging that the theft ultimately benefited her appearance. The surrounding nobles are completely captivated by Roseanne's sophisticated look, praising her unique dress and the legendary crystals in her ears. Feeling a bit overwhelmed by the attention, Roseanne sighs and internally remarks on the trouble caused by working with artistic geniuses.
A memory shows the designer, Shulio, enthusiastically presenting a more modest gown, which Roseanne finds far more appropriate for the occasion.
Her internal monologue focuses on the excessive beauty of her current look, viewing it as a potential complication for her plans.
Roseanne reflects on how satisfying it was to trick Lady Portland into taking the fall with the more eccentric design.
A loud, formal announcement rings through the hall, signaling the sudden and imposing arrival of the Emperor.
The entire assembly bows in deep respect as the Emperor, draped in a regal fur-lined cape, descends into the ballroom.
Carrying a large sword, the Emperor strides through the crowd with an air of absolute authority and menace.
The Emperor welcomes his guests, but Roseanne is suddenly struck by a chilling and dark premonition of danger.
A close-up reveals the Emperor's hands gripped tightly around the hilt of a holy imperial treasure, the sword of the lineage.
Roseanne gasps in pain as a wave of intense, malevolent energy emanates from the Emperor's presence. A sinister, blue-eyed gaze flashes across the scene as a manic, low laugh echoes through the tense ballroom. The Emperor's face is contorted in a terrifying and wide grin as he bursts into a fit of sudden, unsettling laughter. Holding the glowing holy sword aloft, the Emperor ominously promises that the night's festivities will be extremely entertaining for him. The scene shifts as Chloe, a young woman with a bob haircut and a confident posture, sits back on a plush red sofa.
In the parlor, Arya questions her sister Chloe about why she took Arya's practice exams only to humiliate her.
Chloe sticks her tongue out playfully while Arya trembles with repressed rage at her sister's teasing and lack of concern.
Determined to take action, Arya informs her maid, Beth, that she needs to contact her personal teacher for assistance. Arya hands a small, discreetly folded note to Beth, giving her a serious and urgent command. Arya receives a blunt response from an informant named Andrea Pietz, who demands more gold and mocks her many requests. A sharp whoosh sounds through the dark hall before a letter is pinned to the wall with a sudden stick. Arya and Beth discuss the mysterious arrival of the letter, noting the danger of the Dark Society's agents being on their estate.
Beth whispers about the leader of the Black Society resembling Arya, prompting Arya to quickly silence her to avoid a scandal.
Arya reviews a list of troublesome individuals from the academy, realizing she must be extremely cautious around these potential enemies.
With the state exam only 4 days away, Arya stares at her notes and decides that rigorous physical training is her only option.
Arya pushes herself through exhausting drills, landing a jump as her trainer warns her about the high risk of a knee injury. After 4 days of hellish training, Arya runs with new speed and determination, reflecting on the hardships of her transmigration journey. Duke Elias and an official sit together, discussing the surprising exam results and the fate of their sons. The official mentions a special letter arranged by Empress Vivian regarding the third prince, causing the Duke visible distress. Duke Elias paces the room, contemplating a deal involving a third of his wealth and territory if an Elias family member passes the exam.
Despite the official's optimism about his children entering the palace, the Duke insists they must earn their way through honest means.
Turning away with a sharp and defensive expression, Duke Elias firmly denies a previous claim about his intentions. The Duke sits alone, lamenting the complications caused by their military support for the second prince and the Empress's reaction. Letting out a heavy and weary sigh, the Duke reflects on how new rumors are only adding fuel to the existing political fires. An official reports that a certain contact, shown in a flamboyant vision, is currently overwhelmed by Elias' household matters. A sudden realization strikes Duke Elias as he looks up, his expression shifting from surprise to understanding. Arya trembles and wobbles as her father asks if she is hurt. A tea tray makes a quiet slide as Duke Elias advises Arya to rest. Arya explains her risky plan to trick the princes and the military forces. A sudden movement startles her as Duke Elias stands up in visible shock. A loud shout rings out as he calls Arya naive for her dangerous choices. Bowing deeply, Arya apologizes and promises to think more carefully from now on. Arya's expression turns serious as she mentions an unexpected variable she considered. A terrified "Kya" echoes through the hall as a massive, sudden fire erupts. The third prince watches in horror, wondering who would dare attack the palace. Chaitton comforts his silent Roseanne as the panicked crowd flees the growing inferno. Roseanne stares into the fire, realizing something is fundamentally wrong with the scene. She notes that despite the chaos, the Emperor is not being evacuated properly.
Observing the thick smoke, Roseanne realizes there is no heat or burning smell.
As she deduces the illusion, Chaitton grabs her arm, calling out to her. Chaitton urgently insists they must evacuate the burning hall immediately for her safety.
The third prince joins them, shouting for Roseanne to hurry before they're trapped.
Roseanne considers fleeing, seeing a chance to escape the Emperor's oppressive grasp forever. She contemplates letting the two men guide her out toward her own freedom. A painful memory of fallen comrades and screams overlaps with the present chaos.
Her blue eyes glow with a fierce, cold determination amidst the illusory flames.
She reflects on her past life's battlefield choices and her moments of hesitation. The men continue to plead with her, Chaitton even offering a piggyback ride. Shocking them both, Roseanne calmly tells Chaitton and the prince to go first. She hitches up her skirts, declaring she cannot leave while others are dying. Roseanne repeats her command, standing firm against their protests as the fire rages. She turns and sprints back into the panicked crowd, leaving the men stunned. The third prince shouts in disbelief, questioning her sanity as she runs away. Unable to leave her side, Chaitton abandons the exit to chase after her. The prince curses under his breath as he reluctantly follows the group back.
Lady Portling cowers on the floor, crying for help as guests nearly trample her.
Praying to live, she looks up to see a glowing hand reaching down. Tears stream from her eyes as she stares at the unexpected figure above. The pink-haired woman is dazed, looking at the radiant light surrounding her savior. Roseanne stands tall, looking like a literal goddess as she offers her hand. With a sharp command, Roseanne tells the terrified lady to snap out of it.
She checks on the dazed woman, asking if she can walk or is injured.
Overcome with guilt, Lady Portland admits her ankle hurts and apologizes for bullying. Roseanne asks Chaitton to escort the lady out, but he stubbornly refuses. He argues that Rosanna's life is his only priority in this dangerous situation.
Roseanne questions his logic while he points at the surrounding terrifying illusory flames.
Chaitton confesses that to him, her life is far more precious than anyone else's. Turning back, Roseanne asks if he truly takes human life so lightly.
She insists that she can survive alone, but the injured Lady Portland cannot.
A vision of her past life as a redhead knight emphasizes her heroic values.
She warns Chaitton never to treat a life with such dismissiveness again.
Caught by her intense gaze, Chaitton reluctantly agrees to help the other woman.
Roseanne's face remains calm and noble as she secures help for her rival.
Chaitton makes it clear he's only helping because Roseanne commanded it. He supports the crying Lady Portland, promising to return for Roseanne immediately.
Roseanne watches them go with a subtle, satisfied smile, her mission nearly complete.
Reaching for a utensil, Roseanne resolves to confirm her hunch about the situation. She notes that the guards aren't helping, concluding the Emperor is intentionally inciting chaos.
Observing the lack of heat from the massive fire, Roseanne confirms it's a fake.
Looking toward the throne, she realizes the Emperor orchestrated the entire terrifying illusion.
A close-up reveals the source of the fake flames is Jarrell's glowing illusion staff.
Standing amidst the fleeing nobles, Roseanne decides she has no further reason to hesitate. Clenching her hand around a fork, she prepares to take down the source.
With perfect aim, Roseanne throws the utensil, striking Jarrell and disrupting the magic staff.
Confused nobles gasp as the illusory fire vanishes instantly, leaving the hall bright and safe.
The Emperor rages at Jarrell, who explains that a flying fork caused the interruption.
Watching from behind, Roseanne scorns the Emperor's lack of guilt and his petty, cruel plans.
Her eyes glow with a fierce light as she reflects on his lifelong disregard for others.
A sudden, powerful hum vibrates from the hilt of the Emperor's holy imperial sword.
Roseanne breaks into a cold sweat as she feels an overwhelming, sinister pressure.
A red magical circle flares around the blade, prompting her to question its true nature.
The sword pulses with a malevolent light, reacting violently to her proximity in the hall.
Tightening her grip on her arm, Roseanne thinks it would be safer to destroy the weapon.
A sharp cutting sound echoes as a wave of energy rips through the unsuspecting crowd.
A violent crack sounds as the unseen force shatters the ground near the panicked nobles.
The hilt glows even brighter as a sudden flare of magic signals an explosion of power.
Amidst the flashes, Roseanne and the Emperor both sense a shift in the magical atmosphere.
Jarrell quickly casts a protective barrier around the Emperor, who demands to know the attacker's identity.
Glaring through the shield, the Emperor's golden eye narrows as he searches for the culprit.
Roseanne stumbles, clutching her chest as a sharp, unprecedented pain pierces through her very heart.
She realizes the rusted, sealed sword is somehow supernaturally linked to her own hero seal.
A memory reveals her past life, acknowledging only the Emperor can summon the legendary hero.
Perspiring from the strain, Roseanne notes that only the ruling Emperor truly inherits the weapon. The Emperor roars for an immediate investigation, declaring the disruption a clear assassination attempt.
A squad of Imperial Knights marches into the ballroom to enforce the Emperor's command.
Roseanne observes the scene with disgust, noting the Emperor's complete disregard for the injured guests.
Deciding to avoid a pointless investigation, she looks toward the exit, planning her quiet escape.
Though her body feels heavy, Roseanne moves away to distance herself from the sword's influence. With a quick, silent slide, she pushes open a side door to exit the hall. Stepping onto the balcony, she gasps for air, trying to shake off the lingering pain. Roseanne scales the railing and leaps down into the darkness of the palace garden.
She catches herself against the stone wall, moving with the agility of a trained warrior.
Landing softly on the grass with a light thud, she quickly seeks cover among the trees.
Peeking from the shadows, she sees knights searching and feels relieved she hasn't been spotted.
Knights sprint past, shouting that the sword reacted and their target must be nearby.
Roseanne watches them go, relieved that the search party is finally scattering in other directions.
A quiet rustle follows her as she carefully moves deeper into the palace grounds. Leaning against a massive tree, Roseanne struggles to breathe, wondering why the sword affected her so deeply.
She realizes the sword's reaction proves the Emperor knows the hero was recently in his presence.
A chilling vision of the Emperor looms over her, emphasizing how close he came to catching her.
Roseanne determines that being near the Emperor is far too dangerous and must be avoided.
She stares into the night, focused only on reaching a safe place where she won't be suspected.
Feeling like she's in a nightmare, Roseanne notes the overwhelming danger of being in enemy territory.
Suddenly losing her balance, Roseanne is caught by a strong pair of hands before she falls.
Startled, she looks up to find Duke Elias holding her firmly in the garden moonlight. Seeing his flustered but kind expression, Roseanne feels a sudden, unexpected sense of profound relief. Nestled safely, Roseanne looks up with a soft, trusting gaze as a realization washes over her.
Duke Elias looks down at her with intense, burning eyes, his expression softened by worry and devotion.
A sudden gasp escapes the Duke as he catches Roseanne mid-collapse, bridle carrying her through the grand hall.
Duke Elias shouts urgent commands to his staff, demanding a carriage and a physician immediately for Roseanne.
He carries her firmly, dismissing her weak protests that she can walk on her own.
Noting his stubborn, fiery gaze, Roseanne reflects on how much bolder the Duke has become since childhood. Feeling his strength, a tired Roseanne leans against his shoulder and decides to trust his lead.
Their progress is suddenly halted as a glowing, authoritative hand reaches out to block their path.
Imperial Knights intercept them, explaining that the palace is under lockdown following an assassination attempt on the Emperor. Duke Elias defensively argues that they were outside, pointing out that Roseanne is too shaken to stay. The Knights counter that while the Duke has an alibi, they have no proof of Lady Leylaton's whereabouts.
When they demand a third witness for their release, the Duke's patience snaps and he orders them aside.
Roseanne watches the Duke's rising anger with concern, fearing he is about to cause a dangerous scene. She realizes that if they draw any more attention, the Emperor himself will surely intervene. A sudden voice rings out from the crowd as Lady Portland steps forward to offer her testimony. Roseanne stares in wide-eyed disbelief at the woman she previously saved from being trampled. Limping forward, Lady Portland publicly declares that Roseanne was the one who saved her and let her out.
She stands tall in her sparkling gown, challenging the knights with a look of pure, noble authority.
Lady Portland points out that their well-known rivalry means she has no reason to lie for Roseanne.
Chaitton joins the defense, providing the final required testimony that Roseanne was waiting outside the entire time.
Roseanne remains completely stunned, wondering why her former rival, Brina Portland, is suddenly risking everything to help her.